Okay. Welcome to the first meeting in June. We're closing in on the end of the 21-22 school year. I think the classes have ended for the most part. Welcome. Let me call the meeting to order. Roll call. Trustee Griffin.
Here.
Trustee Zuniga.
Here.
Trustee Land.
Here.
Trustee Dwyer.
Here.
And I am here. Superintendent Skelly, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let me make a few announcements here. We have our Spanish interpreter for the meeting this evening, Enrique Montaldo. For those who would like to attend the meeting in Spanish, that's an option that's available. Enrique, could you communicate that for us this evening?
Buenas tardes. Tenemos a nuestro intérprete de español para la reunión de esta noche. Para aquellos de ustedes que quieran asistir a la reunión en español, esa opción está disponible. Gracias.
Thank you. If you wish to view closed captions of this meeting, please view the meeting
Si desea ver los subtítulos de esta reunión, sintonice
on the San Mateo Union High School District Board Meeting YouTube channel. The link is on our website. You can view the captions in English as we live stream the meeting tonight, and you can view the captions in a variety of other languages if you choose to watch after this meeting has ended. Viewers may request additional accommodations by calling 650-558-2201. In closed session this evening, the board, upon the motion of Trustee Land and seconded by Trustee Griffin, moved to approve a special education settlement by a vote of 5-0. In closed session, the board also, upon a motion by Trustee Dwyer and seconded by Trustee Land, moved to approve a stipulated expulsion with a vote of 5-0. So this is a public meeting of the San Mateo Union High School District Board of Trustees. If you wish to make a comment about an agenda item or during the public comment section at the beginning of the agenda, please use the raised hand feature on the Zoom to be recognized when invited to do so by the board president. For each item on which you wish to comment, and you will be admitted to speak during your public comment period. The board president will call on you. Please note that comments are limited to 3 minutes. The board president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public comment depending upon the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. So do we have any public comment this evening on non-agenda items?
No, we do not, President Hanley.
Okay. Do we have any board comments this evening? Trustee Zuniga.
Yes, thank you so much. First, I want to acknowledge the land that we're currently on, is Remetouche Ohlone land, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. I also wanted to acknowledge LGBTQ plus month, and the San Mateo County Pride Center is having a series of different events this month, but also every Monday they have a LGBTQ plus and their ally group from 4:30 to 6, and it's virtual. So I just wanted to mention that. Also, the ACLU, North Peninsula ACLU is constantly looking for youth members. So if anybody's interested, they can go to the website. I also wanted to encourage our community members and also our board to attend the San Mateo County Board of Education meetings. There's a lot of really great information that is frequently discussed at those meetings. And so if people are interested, they could also go to the website for the San Mateo County Board of Education. I really wanted to also mention that as community members and as people in education, schools should be a safe environment for our students. So we really need to make sure that we're writing to our legislators and advocating for the end to gun violence. Just there's been so much in the past, so much information in the past few weeks that has been communicated. There's a shooting pretty much every day in this country. So we really need to make sure that we are keeping not only our students safe, but our community safe. So please write to your legislators, make sure that you're advocating for safety in our communities. Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it. There's also a lot of great positions open in our district. So we're constantly looking for people to join our great staff. So our website also has a lot of that great information. And throughout the summer, I'm going to be having a series of office hours. If people are interested, Saturdays typically 1 to 3. Get in touch with me. My email address is on the website, but it's landrade-zuniga@smuhsd.org. So thank you very much.
Trustee Griffin, I think you're next.
Okay. I am just, I was trying to figure out, we haven't had a board meeting since graduations occurred. And I really, really enjoyed the graduations. I enjoyed the interactions. I enjoyed the speeches, seeing the students, seeing, all the participants and all the hoopla. And so some of them, we had our little glitches, but I think that was unique and it gave each graduation some character. So that's one thing I want to acknowledge. And the second thing, and I've got so many pages open and so many things, the Black Parent Association Black Baccalaureate is coming up, and I cannot find, I know we just got the invite and I forwarded it, and it's either this coming Sunday or Father's Day Sunday, I believe. Could somebody find it real quick so we can?
I think it's June 26th is what
Okay,
I got.
maybe that's it, 'cause I knew we had, but I encourage everybody to participate. And I was looking on the website to see if I could find it, and I couldn't find it, but it's really rewarding. There are some really talented speakers, and we get to see a slice of our district that a lot of us don't get to see. So that's it.
Okay, Trustee Land.
So Bob stole my thunder because I was thinking the same thing, that we have not been in a meeting since graduations. And I just wanted to say, again, all the high schools do such an outstanding job, and the speakers, again, were phenomenal. I just, one at Aragon, she was great. She's going to be in softball at UCLA. I was just so impressed with her speech. It was incredible. Anyway, I just want to say congratulations to all the schools. We did it. We got through the year. All the staff, all the teachers, the principals, all the site Congratulations. I just finished mine yesterday, so got some 8th graders promoted to go to high school. So I'm just really ecstatic that we made it through the year, and I'm just looking forward to a more normalized next year, hopefully. And that would be great. And we were on our way, and I think we're going to head in that direction. So I'm really looking forward to it. That's it.
Truth be known, and I'm gonna step on you there. The fact that she went to UCLA, that she's going to UCLA has nothing to do with the caliber of her speech, huh?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I just wanted to acknowledge that that's where she was going. So I just had to give her credit for that. I mean, UCLA is just really, if we wanted to talk a little bit more about that, I could spend some time about it. But I think we're going to talk about other things. So I'm done.
Trustee Dwyer.
Okay, so I started the week, what I call graduation week with middle college, and I ended it with cappuccino. And in between, I went to 4 others. So I did a total of 6 graduations. I wanted to do 8, but there were timing conflicts, so I couldn't do it. So, but I got to see Mr. Boyes and Mr. Belzer, both who will be leaving us, which makes me very sad. But I was able to, see both of them at graduation, and I thought that made it very special to be there. Unfortunately, I caught what I call graduation influenza following the shaking of multiple hands. And so that's that's been a little less than positive, but that's what happens if you don't do the elbow thing. So otherwise, other than being really sick, it was really a great experience. The other thing I want to say is that I saw an obituary from Mark Vrains, and Mark Vrains spent significant time on this board, and he was a CPA like Bob, and he was just a gentleman. And I did not serve with him, but I know Bob did, and maybe Peter, you did too. But they didn't mention any of his community service in his obituary. It's a beautiful obituary. It's absolutely beautiful. It's in the Daily Journal again today. But he was a good man, and he did good work. And I think that I just wanted to make sure that I brought his name up tonight to recognize him and for his service to this board and to all of the communities, particularly San Bruno. So thank you.
Thank you. I participated at the Mills graduation, which went very well. There were some great student speakers at that graduation, and I was very pleased to be part of it. I want to comment a little bit on the problem, the really tragedy that we're having in our schools with gun violence. I grew up in Bremerton, Washington, which is the location of some of our country's largest naval facilities. And, I don't recall a whole lot from my early childhood, but I remember that 11 o'clock in the morning, every Wednesday, air raid sirens would go out for drills at school, and we'd all climb under our little desks, and we would pretend, I guess, that those little desks would protect us if a nuclear bomb went off, and we were attacked. And it was a frightening part of coming of age in the 50s, 60s, and probably even into the 70s. And I still remember it quite vividly. I remember the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, even though I was pretty young. But at least we knew that if that horrendous day ever came, and we were at school, it would be because a foreign enemy had attacked us, and they attacked us despite every conceivable effort that our country had made, diplomatic, military, strategic. Every single effort had been made to prevent that. It was inconceivable that another American would become an active shooter and come into our schools on a regular basis and kill us. You know, I spent a lot of time in schools, a lot of time. I was in schools for a lot of years. And, you know, I never went through one active shooter drill in all the times I went to school. It's, you know, it's inconceivable that, you know, the most basic steps to make our schools safer, you know, are not being taken. You know, the solutions that are being proposed to make them safer become more and more extreme and more crazy. You know, we're supposedly turning teachers and administrators into armed guards. We're converting, you know, we're supposed to convert schools into fortress-like encampments. You know, yesterday I heard a member of the House Minority Leadership proclaim that, you know, we didn't ban airplanes after 9/11 because they were used in 9/11 to kill thousands of Americans, you know, as if that's a rational comparison. You know, but we did do some things after 9/11. We put extreme restrictions on airplane security. You know, we had one incident where a man put a bomb in a shoe, and it's 20 years later, and we still take off our shoes every time we try to get on an airplane. And yet we can't get through background checks. When more children are dying than American soldiers in combat, and more police in the line of duty. And if you combine the number of soldiers in combat and police in the line of duty that are killed by guns, there's still more children that are dying. So this is not going to change until we, and by we, I mean the American voters, have to change this. The elected officials that support guns over children have to go. We can't have guns over going to places of worship, going to grocery stores, going to movies, just walking down the street. People that hold this view have to be disqualified from serving in Congress and serving in legislatures. You know, we need to remember what Lincoln said at one time, that we have to resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. These dead shall not have died in vain. And we have to do that. You know, and we in California are not restricted to the state lines. We can donate to candidates anywhere that are in favor of common sense gun reform. We can make telephone calls to voters in other states. Campaigns will support this. They'll give us lists of voters. And if you can, take a weekend trip to another state and campaign for candidates that are in favor of common sense reform. This is not going to end until Americans end it by voting out these radical gun legislators. And we have to do this. This is the only way this is going to change, and we have to change it. So that's my view.
Thank you, President Hanley, for saying that. Thank you.
So moving to communications for the Board of Trustees. We have the second interim financial report letter from the San Mateo County Office of Education. And is there any comment on that? If not, we can move to recognition. And we have a proclamation June 20th, 2022 as Juneteenth National Freedom Day, a day of observance.
Thank you very much. As you know, this is last year's Juneteenth happened just barely before the actual date. This year, it felt appropriate to provide a proclamation here. As we prepared this, I know that I and other staff members involved in that learned quite a bit about this historic event in our country's history. And we put this together and we ask that you approve it tonight.
I make a motion to approve the resolution, the proclamation.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion from Trustee Land and a second from Trustee Griffin. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Yes, and I want to make a comment after the vote, please.
Okay, Trustee Zuniga,
Yes, absolutely.
Trustee Land,
Yes, absolutely.
Trustee Dwyer,
Yes, always.
and I vote yes also. Trustee Griffin, you wanted to
Yeah,
make a
you
comment?
know, just quickly, because I know we got a long agenda, it's getting longer. Juneteenth honors the culture and achievements of African Americans, but let us not lose sight of the hypocrisy on the part of the US when all this happened. The celebration was to acknowledge the freeing of the slaves in Texas 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. And the Emancipation Proclamation only freed the slaves in the Confederate state
Mhm.
and not in the Union state. And it did enable them, the Union, to recruit 180,000 African-American slaves and freedmen to serve in the Union Army. So I mean, we need to recognize it. We need to honor the accomplishments, but there's it wasn't quite as pure of motive as we would believe in our U.S. history classes. So that's my comment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Griffin.
So before we move on
A
from,
lot of people have joined us.
Yeah, it
A lot
looks
of-
like some sort of surprise happening here. I don't know.
before we move on from recognitions, we have a few other recognitions. Let me recognize Assembly Member Kevin Mullen for himself and Senator Becker, and I believe he has something that he would like to present tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and Board. Honored to be with you, and President Hanley, thank you for that impassioned plea. It's one I concur with. Honored to be with all of you tonight. Thank you for allowing me to say a few words, and I know that we are joined by Joan Detler with the Office of Senator Becker. It's great to be with you as we honor and recognize an outstanding educator in Superintendent Skelly. Superintendent, you came to the district in 2015, and under your leadership, the district has been able to advance priorities, including equity initiatives to diversify staff, increase student access to entry-level college courses, improve technology usage in and out of the classroom, and expand mental health and wellness resources, to name just a few of your and the district's accomplishments. The last 2 years have been trying, to say the least, from remote learning to ensuring the safe return to campuses. Your steadfast leadership has helped the district navigate through the incredible challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. Your contributions to the education of San Mateo Union High School District students have been invaluable, as you have served as a worthy model for all education professionals and leaders in the state of California. In your 40 years in the field of education, you have made a positive impact in the lives of countless students, and you leave the field better than when you found it. As a public servant, I think that is all we can truly ask for. With that said, on behalf of myself and the aforementioned Senator Becker, who is being so ably represented this evening by Joan Detler, we have a resolution for you, Mr. Superintendent, commending you for your exemplary service in the field of education and extending best wishes to you on a very, very well-earned retirement, sir. So honored to be with you all this evening. And just let me say, on behalf of the state of California and the constituents of the 22nd Assembly District. Thank you, sir. Grateful for your service.
Thank you very much for coming and presenting that. I believe Brian Perkins from Congresswoman Jackie Spear office is also here.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for your important and emotional and well thought out comments earlier on gun violence in our country. Dr. Skelly, as you know, Congresswoman Spear sent a letter last week, and she isn't able to make it tonight because she's in the Capitol at the hearing that just recently ceased. But she wanted me to read a few paragraphs from the letter, and it goes as follows. Dear Kevin, I want to thank you for your service to the students, families, and community of the San Mateo Union High School District. During our work together, you demonstrated an unusual sensitivity to the emotional development of students and to the needs of faculty and staff. I always enjoyed our exchanges, even when we occasionally differed in our opinions, which was rare. I was particularly impressed with your dedication to equal education for all students. My staff regularly shared news articles with me in which you were quoted as encouraging the district to make extra efforts for students who were struggling. You also recognized that longstanding inequities due to societal injustices needed to be confronted directly and remediated. I am certain that there were hundreds of times when the job of being a superintendent offered tremendous rewards. Every graduation is a time of renewal and hope. Every story of a student's life flourishing was an opportunity to be inspired. I know that you will take these memories with you as you approach your next adventure. I also know that many members of staff and faculty and the board appreciate your steadfast work to advance the cause of American democracy through the tool of free, universal, high-quality public education. You have my sincerest appreciation. My best wishes to you in the years ahead. You made a difference for the better in the San Mateo Union High School District, and you did so during a time when such a contribution was emphatically needed. All the best, Jackie Spear.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to recognize a former colleague on the board, Supervisor Dave Pine.
Thank you, President Hanley, and greetings, everyone. On behalf of the Board of Supervisors, I have a resolution here commending Mr. Skelly for his tremendous service on behalf of the district since 2015. During your tenure, Kevin, we had the opportunity to work on a number of matters, including school mental health issues, COVID issues, and land use issues. And it was always just a tremendous pleasure to work with you, and your passion for the district and for its students was always evident. I would have loved to have been on this board while you were superintendent. So I'm jealous of my former colleagues and friends who've had that opportunity. You have left tremendously big shoes to fill, and just wish you all the best, Kevin, in your retirement and your next phase of your adventures. So we're deeply indebted for your service.
Thank you, Dave. Let me recognize our county superintendent, Nancy McGee.
Thank you, President Hanley. Good evening, Dr. Skelly. This is a bittersweet time for me. I'm not quite ready to say goodbye. But I do want to acknowledge you for your wise, steady, and calm leadership through all the years that I've been in the county. I think our terms have intersected. I was at the county office when you came in 2015, so I've worked with you in different roles. I've seen you provide incredible, wise leadership to your superintendent colleagues. You listen carefully, speak rarely, but you always add great value to the discussion. More than anything, you're attuned to the needs of students. I've seen you, literally go to the mat to protect their ability to be young people, to be athletes, to be musicians, to be performers, to be all the things that they are. You really, especially during COVID, stretched yourself to the nth degree that you possibly could to protect their ability to keep doing what they needed to do to be young people. Personally, you've been a mentor to me and a friend, and I won't be letting go of either one of those roles anytime soon. And I appreciate the way that you walk the walk. When you dedicate yourself to environmental sustainability, for instance, you drive the smallest car that could possibly fit such a lanky figure. I always marvel that you can fit all your limbs inside your car. But you're often seen riding your bike as often as possible. You brought real, deep, green, and sustainable practices to the district that recently resulted in the district receiving a statewide Green Ribbon Award. You understand that, things don't always go well, and that we have to keep our eye forward and keep moving. You've been a great example of that. And I'll end with something that I've never said to you before, but something I really, really admire about you is what an amazing writer you are. You put something out into the public sphere, your communication is spot on. It's not only always spot on, but it's poetic and oftentimes profound. And I'm always like, darn, I wish I could write like Kevin. So I'm going to miss you, but like I said, I'm not going to let you go far. Going to keep you busy. And I can see your family here, and I know how much you just deeply love and appreciate and value being in their space. And I wish you all the best in your future years. May you live long and prosper, sir.
And let me bring on Susan Navarro, speaking on behalf of Beverly Gerard from the County Board of Education as board president.
Thank you, President Hanley and members of the board. And Peter, thank you for your comments earlier. You moved me practically to tears. I'm sitting back here saying, I'm glad my camera's off. So yes, I'm here because Board President Gerard, I was going to come anyway, and Board President Gerard asked me to speak on behalf of the board. So I would just like to take this opportunity to thank Kevin Skelly for his 7 years at San Mateo High School District, and also 40 years devoted to the education of our young people. I don't know how many people in the audience know, I know the board knows, that a couple of years ago, Dr. Skelly was one of 2 semifinalists for the National Superintendent of the Year Award from the National Association of School Superintendents. And of course, we were cheering for him, but number 2 in the entire country ain't too bad, Kevin. Richly deserved. His strong leadership, especially during this pandemic, has really kept students, teachers, staff, and families on track. I understand from a number of people that he reached out regularly to make sure staff was doing okay. And on top of this, I think that Kevin Skelly is a genuinely nice guy. The county board and district superintendents don't often work together, but I've had the distinct pleasure and privilege to have had the opportunity to work with Kevin on several occasions over the last 7 years, and it's been really, really enjoyable. Kevin, I want to thank you for your many years of service to all the children of California, because it isn't just us that you've helped, and I want to wish you best of luck in your retirement.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I know the principals have gotten together to present you with a lifetime pass to any San Mateo Union High School event for you and a guest. And I think we have that. I think we have that right next to you.
Yes. Fired up about this.
So we expect you to be showing up regularly around here at lots of different things.
If
And-
Carrie can't go, I'll be the guest.
We can ride our bikes there. I'll do it that one better.
Forget that. Walk.
And I believe Shar has something from the board.
Is
Oh.
Joan Dentler going to say something, Peter?
I-
Joan Dentler?
Well, thank you, Linda. I think Assemblymember Mullins spoke for both of us.
Okay.
But if you're giving me the opportunity, I would like to add that I personally did enjoy the time as a staff member working with Superintendent Skelly. There were always challenging issues, interesting issues that we heard from no other superintendent in our vast Senate district. Always food for thought and interesting topics, and it let staff really jump into a lot of interesting issues. And so I personally learned a lot just working with you, Dr. Skelly, and I truly appreciate your service. And as does Senator Becker and the people of Senate District 13. Thank you.
So Kevin, I would just say to start out, and I will certainly give all of my colleagues a chance to chime in, but it has been a pleasure to work with you over the years. And I think you have been, a leader, certainly in the county, but probably in the state in getting this district through COVID. I mean, we have probably made a few missteps here and there, but overall, I think we've led more than any other district in bringing back athletics, bringing back hybrid models, and just keeping the ship moving forward, keeping the staff aligned, keeping us aligned more or less. And, I think, we don't always agree on everything, but that's part of the mission. And, but I think we benefit from our discussions and from our conversations and from our disagreements. But it has been a real pleasure working with you, and I think I've learned a lot, and I look forward to certainly staying in touch, and look forward to seeing you around here quite a bit in the future. So, Trustee Land.
Okay, Bob doesn't get to speak because he already spoke at the retirement, so he doesn't get a turn. Just kidding. Just kidding. Anyway, no, Kevin, I just want to say that, as an educator, as a board member, I've learned so much from you, and I'm proud to know you and proud to have learned so much from you. You've really done a lot for this district. I've seen when you and I first got here, I think you did such a great job with our culture and created that culture of just warm, welcoming, part of making us want to be here, making the staff want to be here, the teachers, the principals, and you've created this culture that we exist in today. And I have to say, you've done a great job. And not only that, but everyone else has spoken your praises about all the things that we've accomplished. And like Peter said, we don't always agree, but we keep going and, we move on, right? And we move that rock pile. I mean, I'm still going to remember that saying. That's one of the sayings that I truly remember is, yes, let's keep moving that rock pile, and that's what we do. But one thing that I really admire about you is your caring for people, caring for students, your participation. I think one of the things I always remember is your first couple of years where you're in the Burlingame gym playing basketball with kids and just connecting with them, and really making that a priority is just in getting to know them. I think that is such an important part of being in education and being part of this professional industry that we're in. I really admire you, Kevin. I know that we're just going to keep riding bikes, hopefully together in the San Mateo Bay Area. Hopefully we can bring your son Patrick and then others along with us. And I just wish you the best. And I think go hang out and be a granddad.
So Linda,
Okay, so I'm probably the person that's been the toughest on you. Where are you? Your picture moved. Okay. And that's just, how I do things. But I've never known a superintendent who has spent more time on campus with people, supporting principals, supporting teachers, supporting staff, getting to know everyone's name, trying to engage people, talking to students. I have never known a superintendent who has done that. And I think that is something so unique. And I hope other people will adopt that model and get out there and spend time, because that's where you really learn. And that's where you do all the support work. So I really appreciate that. I also appreciate all the work that you did around the wellness program. And I think you really brought that to us. And that's so important, because the emotional well-being of students is so important. And the leadership that you provided in that is immeasurable. And the other thing is about the bridge program, and you're welcoming, you're opening the door and saying, you are all welcome. What can we do? And I appreciate that creative thinking. So not the costumes, not so much, but then that's my own kind of thing about costumes. But I just think you've done so many good things. And I think you should go into retirement knowing that you've accomplished a lot, and you have wonderful family to spend time with, and a wife who really is going to get to know you again, because you're going to be home more. And she'll have to adjust to that. But that's okay, because I think you've earned the time to do what you want to do. And I look forward to hearing about your adventures. And if Carrie can't make it to any performances, you can always invite me, and I'll meet you there. Walking. Thank you.
Trustee Griffin.
I've made a speech twice honoring Kevin, and I can't use the same speech again because everybody has already heard it. So, Dr. Skelly, I really enjoyed our working relationship. You've been exceptional in your leadership in academics, keeping our high standards up, our social, emotional well-being, and the equity. I really enjoyed marching in the Black Lives Matter protest with you, even though I was the oldest guy and you were close to the oldest guy, literally. I enjoyed your team building, although I wouldn't have admitted it. Bowling in a toga was my handicap, and I will never do that again. I think you leave the district in really good shape. And I think this is something I've said before, and I really mean it. You leave us with a culture of excellence, and you lead us with leaders to carry on the important work that we have. And the last comment is, on we go.
So Trustee Zuniga.
Yes, Dr. Skelly, in the short time that I've been able to get to know you, what I really appreciate about you is your vulnerability and your willingness to connect. I really have appreciated our Tuesday meetings. We've had our little bumps in the road, but I do appreciate your willingness to, meet me halfway, and being willing to listen to my side, and also just knowing about your life, meeting your family. I think the biggest reflection of your character has been in your family. You have a really great family. And I really I've seen just in your children how great they are. Those are a reflection of you and your wife. I really have been grateful for understanding, for you teaching me to understand a little bit more and to see things sometimes more positively. I remember we had a conversation about I can't even remember what it was about. I think it was after George Floyd. You know, and you said something like, you know, in seeing things in a positive light, where sometimes, depending on our experiences, they aren't always so positive. And so I just have really understood a little bit more about who you are, and just through, I guess, through our experiences and the common grounds, we are more alike than we think we are. So thank you for just for being so caring, for your heart, for your vulnerability, for your willingness to meet me halfway.
Thank you. So I give you an opportunity, Dr. Skelly, to
Okay, so good thing I brought my computer to this meeting. I want to use some of the things that I've been thinking about as you know, as I've gone through this time here. And first, I want to thank the board for hiring me. I wish I'd come to this district a long time ago, and this has just been one fantastic place to work. People talk about the culture here or my role in it, but this is just a great place to work. The combination of our families, the leadership of the board, the teachers, the union, it's just a great place to work. So let me start thanking some people. So thank you for hiring me, working with me, forgiving me, advising me, competing with and against me, defending me, having courageous conversations with me, disagreeing with me, supporting me, confiding in me, and letting me be vulnerable and my authentic self. Who would I be without you? Thank you for your partnership in something so important, getting the next generation of young people so they realize their full potential and fulfill their destiny. We haven't just done work, we have a vocation, a calling, and engage in some of the most noble and important activities we humans can do. I want to thank my parents, and I know they're on this call and you will not see they will not come on the screen. But I want to thank my parents who've always been my models for a life of service, love, and hunger for justice. They taught me gratitude with responsibility, that those who much is given, much is expected. If I've done some good in the world, it's due in no small part to their example and expectation. I want to thank my family. I have 20 amazing nephews, brothers and sisters-in-laws, brothers, sisters, and there's nothing like family to tell you what you need to hear, even if you don't want to hear it. I want to thank my children and grandchildren. Thank you for putting up with my missed games, nights where I wasn't present in conversations or I was too distracted to really listen. You are people of love and integrity, and I look forward to spending more time with you. I want to thank Carrie, my wife. We met 41 years ago in college. We were both volunteers in programs serving incarcerated men and women. And like a good teacher, she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself at that time. She's loved me and supported me throughout my career. She sacrificed her own career for mine and has been the driving force in the lives of our children. And is now doing the same with our beloved grandchildren. And then I want to tell a story. One day about 4 years ago, I was finishing a meeting with principals and folks on district council. It'd been a tough downer type of meeting that happens in the hard work of education. Without thinking, I said to that group something along the lines of, I love you all so much. I'm not sure why that happened or what the origin of that comment was. I just remember from that day forward, I couldn't end a meeting without saying that. And so it is tonight. I want to thank all of you how much you've meant to me. And each and every one of you, if I haven't been courageous enough to say that to you before, make sure you hear it from me now. So thank you. And as I often say, on we go. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Hanley, on we go here. It's getting late.
Okay. Thank all of you and thank all of our guests for coming. This was a wonderful way to honor Kevin's service with the district, and we all very much appreciate your participation. So
Now we have to remove some rock
you're all
piles.
welcome to stay also if you want to see a brilliant governance team in action.
We'll move some rocks together. There we go.
Yeah,
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
okay. I should ask if anyone wanted to pull anything from the consent agenda.
I read every contract. Yancy, there was a lot of contracts on this thing.
Okay. I'm sorry, who moved approval? Linda moved approval and who seconded?
Greg.
Greg. Okay. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
Trustee Land,
Yes.
Trustee Dwyer,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So the consent agenda is approved. Regular reports, report of the superintendent.
Thank you very much. I'm going to start with a short construction update. I know it's hard to get out to all the sites, but we have a few slides here for you and the community to see what's going on at our sites. And I'm going to turn this item over to Mr. Yancey Hawkins, our Chief Business Officer.
All right. So as soon as the graduation ceremonies were over and the chairs were carted off the field, construction began for the busiest summer of construction in the district, probably in over 10 years. I just want to go over a few of the things that are happening this summer. Next slide. I'll start off with the sports fields projects at Cappuccino and Mills. Your eyes are not telling you lies. That is actual turf down at Cappuccino on the secondary soccer and lacrosse field at Cappuccino. So in the next couple of weeks, you'll start seeing that at the softball field as well. We can go on to the next slide. Here's just an on-field looking out at the tennis court complex, along with the multi-use field, looking back at the gym and the swimming pool. Next slide. Here you can see the 7-court tennis complex, 2 of which of those courts will be lighted for student and community use, but we're getting really close there. Next slide. The softball complex, the lighted softball complex adjacent to the stadium field, that will be getting turf in the next couple of weeks. And those, along with the tennis courts and the secondary turf field, will be turned over to the site in July, well ahead of the needs for the start of the school year in August. Next slide. Moving on to Mills. This is the 2-tiered project. We're looking at the softball multi-purpose field lighted up at the top, as well as half of the tennis courts that are seen here surrounded by the retaining walls. Next slide. It's a little bit farther back, but this is the new baseball field, lighted baseball field complex, and the second set of tennis courts. The softball field and multi-sport field, as in Cappuccino, will be turned over to the school site in July, well before the start of school and action in August. And then the baseball field here at Mills and the baseball field at Cappuccino will be available later this fall, well ahead of the baseball season in the spring. Next slide. As I noted, we rolled right in our construction team with a huge slate of projects. Todd Lee from Greystone brought you a presentation in May, but the Aragon, Hillsdale, and Mills Transite panel encapsulation projects have begun in earnest. Those are 2 summer projects with a huge amount of the work done in the first summer, and then a lot of the curb appeal and final portions of that project for next summer. So they are fully under construction right now, as well as Burlingame's Building A, which is getting a full HVAC replacement and a roof replacement. A couple of the other things that are going on at Hillsdale, we're getting a much needed domestic water line replacement. It's well past the end of its useful life. And district-wide, we're getting a new PA replacement for all sites with some new safety features, as well as district-wide path of travel lighting projects that will be occurring all over the district. Next slide. Just a couple of looks at how some of these transite panel encapsulation projects are going to look. It's really going to put a facelift to Aragon, Hillsdale, and Mills. So this obviously is at Aragon, and this is a little bit what it'll look like after next summer. Next slide. Hillsdale, this is just a theater in the 31st Avenue view, and to look at just how wonderful it is going to be looking after next summer. The next slide. And Mills High School, just some wonderful work, a real facelift for that campus. And it's just going to be great for all the students and the community. Next slide. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. I'll continue my report with just making a few comments about graduations. I thought our graduations were fully post-pandemic, and to have these rituals for students is so important. I mean, we just really need to have rituals in our lives, and this is a coming of age event for kids, and to have that with such a celebration was great. I will mention that on Tuesday night, the principals and I held a makeup graduation for the students who were unable to attend graduation because they had COVID and were not able to come. It was, I didn't know how many families would take us up on that, but we had 15 students there out of about 18. And it just accentuates how important graduation is for families. And there was just a great spirit there. And I really appreciate the principals coming, and Ms. Dr. Kemke, Ms. Devaney for helping us on that. We are almost fully hired. We've got a full administrative team going. We have summer school is in session. That's going well. And that, it's great that we have these opportunities for students to make up work, and then also begin to get some of that learning loss behind them. And then the Blind Parents Association Baccalaureate is on the 26th of June, and it'll be at 3 o'clock, and it's a virtual event. And I've recorded my speech for that, Bob, and I hope after you hear it, you think it's one of the good speeches. I want to now introduce some of the new folks who are joining our team here. We've been hiring assistant principals, and 4 of them, 3 of them are here tonight, as well as Jennifer Volafeld, whom I'll introduce in just a minute. So I'm going to start with you, David. David has been the assistant. He's going to be an assistant principal at Aragon High School. For the past 4 years, he's been at Burlingame Intermediate as an assistant principal there. He was a TOSA in San Mateo Foster City, where he served as the dean of students. He's been a teacher. What impressed us in the interviews was how student-centered and how interested he was in all the student activities. And so we're looking forward to having you join us. David, maybe you want to say just a couple of words here.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Skelly, for that introduction. Yeah, a few words for sure. I'm just very, very excited to join Aragon, to join the team with Valerie. I have experience, as you mentioned here in Burlingame, but the majority, sorry, that's our open house bell. We're sending our parents home. I'm still on site. But yeah, previous 12 years, I was in the San Mateo Foster City School District. I know the community well. I live in San Mateo. I have an 8th grader at Burrell right now and a freshman that just moved up to a sophomore at Aragon. So I'm super excited and humbled and grateful to join the Aragon team. Thank you very much.
Okay, next is Amy Malcolm. Amy has been doing her a lot of work at UC Berkeley. She was the chairman of the English department in Hayward Unified. I believe it was Tennyson High School. She can correct me there. Lately, she's been doing a lot of work on literacy for the district. She's got lots of experience in this work. She's going to be an assistant principal at Burlingame High School, and we're really excited to have Amy joining our team. Amy Malcolm.
Good evening. Thank you for making the space for me to introduce myself. I'm really excited to join the Burlingame High School administrative team and the school community. I am really looking forward to meeting the students and staff and faculty when everyone returns from a much deserved break. As Dr. Skelly had mentioned, I've been an English teacher, and the last 7 years has been spent as an assistant principal and then some work around literacy. So I'm really looking forward to joining the team, and I will say happy retirement, Dr. Skelly.
Thank you. I don't think Jonathan White is here. Oh, he is. Okay, Jonathan White is here tonight. We weren't quite sure he was going to make it. Jonathan is joining us after working in the West Contra Costa School District. He's a graduate of UC Riverside, where he studied creative writing. We need more poets and artists and philosophers in our ranks, and so we're delighted to have him bringing those skills to us as well. He was a student at St. Mary's High School. He is, which is over in Berkeley. He's also a basketball player, student-centered person, really impressed us in the interviews. Jonathan, maybe you could say a few words here. So welcome to the district.
Well, thank you. Appreciate everyone being here tonight. Thank you. Good evening to everyone. I'm pleased to join the San Mateo Union High School District. My name is Jonathan White. I've worked in education for over 10 plus years. My experience working with the youth in education has been very rewarding, and it continues to inspire me to uplift families and students' voices and our staff voices that make up our school communities. As a young male of color, I will plan to continue to advocate for students and families in your community so that we can do our best to support the academic and also including the student success of all students, especially our families and students that are most underserved. So thank you for having me, and I look very forward to joining the San Mateo Union High School community.
Great, and welcome, Jonathan. Our next assistant principal who will also be joining Mills. They have two new assistant principals is Eric Ding. Coming to the district is sort of coming home for Eric. He is a graduate of Aragon High School, where he participated in the music program heavily there. He also did some graduate work at UC Berkeley. He is a Cornell graduate for his undergrad, where he studied philosophy and science, which is a good combination. And he's taught English and science out before joining us here. We're really excited to have Eric join us at Mills as an assistant principal. Welcome, Eric.
Wow, thank you for the lovely introduction, Dr. Skelly. You did your homework. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hello, San Mateo Union High School District Board of Trustees. My name is Eric Ding. I prefer to be called Ding. And it's my pleasure to return to this district from which I graduated 11 years ago. So as assistant principal at Mills, I'm excited to imbue the school with the warm culture, equitable instruction, and consistent family communication that this district strives for to meet the academic and social needs of all of our students and families. I know firsthand the power of what a well-run school and district can do. And so as an administrator, I'm driven by my mission to give back and provide even more than what was given to me. So I really see my work as empowering teachers, students, and staff to realize their fullest potential. Yeah, through authentic relationships and also like believing in the power of the possible. So I am honored to enhance this amazing work already being done at Mills, to work with Jonathan and have a really cohesive administrative team with Jonathan and Pamela. And my partner and I are actually planning on moving to the Peninsula later on this year. So I can't wait to begin my administrative journey with you all. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Eric. Last but certainly not least is Jennifer Villafort. She is going to be our behavior program manager. She joins us from Achieve in Palo Alto, which is a program that I know well from the experiences that I had there. She's a native of Cicero, Illinois. She's fully credentialed in the field, and folks with her set of skills are super important for our special education students. An interesting fact about her is that she plays the cello. So we're looking forward to benefiting from all of her talents when she joins us. So Jennifer, you want to say a few words?
Thank you, Dr. Skelly. I'm sincerely grateful to be selected as behavior program manager at San Mateo Union High School District. And I'm super excited to begin collaborating with such a great team. So thank you all. Nice meeting you all.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Jesse has his hand up.
Okay, Jesse Boyce has his hand up? Okay, all right, so Jesse, go ahead. Yeah, you're going to promote him? Okay. So maybe you accidentally put it up. You didn't get a text from him, did you? I haven't either. Okay, we'll go on. That's the end of my report.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a student board member?
We do not.
Okay. Let's go to K3 then, the report of the District Teachers Association representative. Okay, please proceed.
Good evening, President Hanley, Board of Trustees, district leadership, and community members. I'd like to take a moment to honor the victims and survivors of the massacres in Buffalo and Uvalde. In Buffalo, we witnessed the murder of Black bodies while grocery shopping, and in Uvalde, the massacre of young students and teachers while in school. I cannot agree more with President Hanley's comments. We cannot move forward as if this is a normal part of our society. We cannot become numb to the mass murder of human beings. As leaders of the country refuse to face the racism and white supremacy of our nation and the need for serious gun reform to protect our communities, we must do better. As a district and community, we must continue to work towards anti-racism and continue to protect the humans in our communities. This Saturday, June 11th, there are March for Our Lives rallies across the state. The closest to our district is in Burlingame starting at 10 a.m., and we invite you all to join. We would like to extend a huge congratulations to Dr. Skelly for his retirement. Personally, I've only known this district under Dr. Skelly's leadership as we came in the same year, and it's hard to imagine it without him. Dr. Skelly, I have deeply appreciated your thoughtfulness and empathy. Although it can be really difficult to create a positive relationship between the school district and teachers association, you've consistently strived to build and uplift that relationship to best benefit students. You've helped build a foundation for listening to student experience in order to create more equitable policies and practices. We will always appreciate you for thinking about students first and trying to do what is best for them and the rest of our community. Thank you for your service, and I hope you can still join us for the occasional walk and talk and bowling evenings in the future. As a board and community listen to public comment regarding the 2022 LCAP, we'd like to highlight the priorities reflected in the plan. The priorities include authentic relationships, safe and connected communities, engaging, rigorous, and relevant learning for every student, and supporting and empowering staff. The only way to prioritize these important aspects of the LCAP goals is to retain highly qualified, passionate, and caring educators. We can do that by maintaining healthcare, offsetting retirement costs, and supporting smaller class sizes. The association is happy to have an agreement on the contractual reopeners we discussed with the district. We believe the early conclusion to these negotiations indicate a growing trust between both sides and an alignment of our interests on many major issues. One of those issues is healthcare benefits. While this issue can be confusing and challenging to negotiate because many of the costs are beyond the district's control, we appreciate the district's continuing willingness to try and maintain full coverage of healthcare premiums for most full-time employees. This benefit is a strong draw to potential employees of our district as an integral reason why employees remain in the district. With the increase in AV growth from 7.4% to 7.8%, the $1.6 million in one-time money, the May revise, and the block grant funds, we are confident that we can continue to collaborate with the district to find a resolution and that we have the resources to do this together. We understand that covering healthcare is good for everyone, and we believe the district does too. We look forward to continuing collaboration with the district on how to maintain the best possible coverage for all employees in hopes to retain and support our educators. Thank you.
Thank you. Report of the CSEA Chapter 519 representative.
Hello and good evening, President Hanley, Dr. Skelly, members of the board, and everyone here tonight. I'm Jim Brock, our chapter president. School is out. The grades have been mailed, summer school has started, and the summer projects have kicked off, including construction at most of the sites, which is pretty awesome. It is time to take a step back to review all that we have accomplished and start planning and making changes for the new year. With 4 days of professional development next year, our members have requested that managers bring job-alike training and sessions on at least one of these days, as we did in the past. This supports collaboration with classifications, encourages ideas, and finding the best practices within our district to better support our students. We are currently reviewing several draft proposals for different classifications and our members. Just a reminder, our chapter supports our trade workers, bus drivers, nutrition workers, instructional aides, accounting and technology personnel, and more. As always, we look forward to reaching a positive agreement for all. Thank you again for your time and continued support. We look forward to sharing more news with you soon. And I would also like to thank Dr. Skelly for all his contributions to the San Mateo Union High School District. We congratulate you on your recognition as well, and it is well deserved. We also hope that you enjoy your retirement with your beautiful family and have plenty of safe travels. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Report of the San Mateo Adult School Teachers Association representative.
Hi, that would be me, Lynette Garcia. I am also the CTE coordinator for the San Mateo Adult and Career Education Campus. We'll be touching on several different things for this evening. I do want to extend our congratulations to Dr. Skelly on your retirement. Thank you for your time, your service, and dedication. We've seen you at our campus quite often, and we appreciate your time. I also want to take a moment to thank and acknowledge President Hanley, Trustee Luhia, as well as Rachel for your acknowledgement with our gun violence. We should be writing our legislature. That's what we do. We do need to get people out to vote. You can also send postcards, as well as the marches. There's marches all over the peninsula. Our second closest one is Redwood City. There's also one in Mountain View. There's one in San Francisco. Okay. If you need to find one or you want to find one, please feel free to look me up on Facebook and or LinkedIn. I would be more than happy to direct you. I think that we need to stay engaged and informed because that's how the problem was created, and it's up to us as the population and the public to rectify the situation. Okay. We will be doing a very short update on ESL. You guys got an earful last time with us. We also have new beginnings with our ASE. We have some community fund to report. We have a CTE update or a career education updates for upcoming and new programs, as well as our bridge program and San Mateo Adult and Career Education Collaborative effort. So our ESL update, with ESL, there's not a whole lot to report. As I said, we are about halfway through our summer session and planning for registration and orientation for our new students. We implemented something new this last round, and it seems to be working very well. We have them come in multiple days for testing, as well as computer training. That seems to be inherent, particularly when we were doing hybrid. We are doing away with the hybrid programs, as you know. We are at this point planning to have all levels of ESL back on campus. We will continue to offer some online classes, both morning and evening, to reflect our online. That has helped some of our students. We will be interviewing incoming students to see how many prefer the online classes. Past data has leaned towards in-person, and some prefer the convenience of online, particularly our working population. As such, we will be interviewing the incoming students and closely tracking the data. We are being driven by data at this point for our funding. And as we end our hybrid program option for ESL and return to in-person classes, we do want to minimally offer some online options. Unsure if it was mentioned in our last report, we have recently acquired a wonderful new ASE coordinator. Her name is Julie Madrona, who is also in for our morning HSD instructor, high school diploma program. As she hits the ground running, she is currently assisting with the planning of our graduation ceremony for our students with the HSD or high school diploma program, as well as our GED, general education development, and their families in July, to include scholarships from our donors. Each graduate will have meetings set up to meet with one of our transition specialists in an exit interview to discuss next steps as they leave our programs. We've gotten pretty good at this. And on some few fun notes, we held our annual Student Community Volunteer Appreciation event this past Tuesday on June 7th for both the AM and PM volunteers. As you may know, we have a robust volunteer program. Our volunteers assist with the ELL registration process by translating and interpreting in a variety of languages. They assist in the citizenship classrooms, helping students to prepare to take their citizenship tests, as well as help to maintain our school garden. We at San Mateo Adult School are a better school because of our volunteers. We also held a book sale for both the AM and PM students. Books were very affordable, and the students were appreciative of the added resource. And now as we move on to career education, several meetings ago, we spoke about upcoming programs. We have implemented a new program. It's called the Introduction to Medical Terminology. It was a pilot program with 2 weeks of advertisement. Within our own population, we had 10 students. 4 of those students are moving on to our other programs. It has an ESL IET component, so it does have support in that area for our ESL students. We've also started medical coding and billing for this fall, dental rover and or sterilization technician, and phlebotomy technician program. Phlebotomy is kind of on the ropes. It's slated to start in October 22. We'll see. We've also included Excel certification, as well as construction math prep that should be reignited back August the 23rd. All right, let's see if I can get through this quickly here. Let's see. Okay. All right, so introduction to medical terminology. We have 3 that up-leveled into our clinical medical assistant program, 1 that's gone into our dispensing optician program. And let's take a look. Partnerships with our colleges continue to grow. And that's the dental rover sterilization program. That's with Kenyatta College. All right, and now for updates with our efforts with the Bridge program. Because of the summer schedule, we have not yet had the opportunity to schedule a follow-up meeting between SMACE and the Bridge program, and we'll do so in the fall of 2022. The areas of discussion and areas of collaboration are the K through 12 form, the AE overview of placement and appointment testing, which we've already begun, current data, that we need to look at as we move forward. Results reviewed, scheduling of course, curriculum planning between the two schools, between the adult school, as well as the bridge program teacher collaboration. The AE environment culture, how can we transition them seamlessly? That's what we're looking to. How can we get them to a point where when they enter our program, they know where they are and why they're there. There seems to be a disconnect there. Resources as discussed on April 11th, and then communications, facility use, regular scheduled meetings, AS calendar access share, as well as bridge calendar share, and whatever our next steps are. With our first initial meeting, we reviewed 1 and 2, so K through 12 forms, as well as number 2, the overview and placement. Current data was briefly mentioned and will need further review. What I found through reading through the notes was that we gained a better understanding as to how each program operates. There are differences. I've noticed that there are differences just even between the high school, transitioning them into the adult school, from the adult school transitioning them into the colleges. We're going to work to make that a more seamless process, but it's going to take a little bit of work. We're working towards bridging the notable gaps between the two programs as we strive to create a more equitable program for both. To note, just as a quick side note, this week we have tested and placed 21 students from the district, what they call the district transfers, into the adult school ESL program. I think that's it. Did I make my 5 minutes? And if there are any questions, please feel free to email me. That's lgarcia@SamTail.org. Thank you very
Okay.
much for your time and the opportunity.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's move to special reports and appearances. L1 is the mental health update presentation.
Thank you very much. This item will be led by Ms. April Torres, who is our Director of Mental Health Programs. But there are many, many people behind her in terms of this work. So she's sort of the tip of the spear, but there are a lot of folks here. We'll go through this. And I want to thank her, Dr. Black, and everybody who works on this crucial part of our mission here, the student mental health and well-being. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Ms. Torres. Do we have?
She needs to unmute.
You need to unmute if you haven't, April.
Oh, that would be nice. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So, hi, my name is April Torres, Manager of Mental Health Programs in the district. Thank you for having me. I know we have a lot on the agenda tonight, so my plan is to be as nimble as possible. Hopefully, if you have questions, you can feel free to reach me outside of this evening as well. I'm very humbled to be here tonight. I do want to acknowledge what Rachel Lauderdale had said, as well as others around gun violence, and acknowledge that, especially in the light of this presentation this evening. Okay, so our agenda this evening, I'm not touching this. Okay, thank you, Shar. I'll just say next. So we're going to talk a little bit about our wellness team, go talk a little bit about our why and our evaluation, how we came to be, some of the impact that we've made, and our continued growth into next year and on. So next. This is our lovely wellness team. We have 34 members. We also have an intern, Adriana Gomez, who also works with the district. Our long-term sub is the only person not on this page, so I apologize. What I really want to say about this unique and amazing group of people is that we have purposefully identified therapists that represent our school communities, male, female, trans fluid, first generation, non-traditional, blended, or single family backgrounds. And our students really see themselves in our staff. Our staff are not only a fabric of our schools, but our community as well. They are club advisors, they're coaches, they're members of the community they serve, they're actors, playwrights, comedians, doctors, teachers for catechism, they're board members themselves on different committees. Our therapists are highly trained, they're responsive, and they represent our diverse communities, and they are who we entrust with our most vulnerable groups of people. Next. And you can see that the work with they work with our established community partners to bring in some of our really amazing programs like the therapy dogs, and we're getting more and more of that. The students and staff has also asked for their own time with our therapy animals, so that's been great. We have our Stanford Teen Mobile Health Van that has been, this is our 5th year having this service through Peninsula Healthcare District grants. And then we also have Peninsula High School, who attends the Burlingame Farmers Market, and they sell things that they create in art class, like greeting cards and paintings and stand-up toys. So if you haven't seen that, make sure you stop by. They're located next to Ace Hardware. Okay, next. Okay, so this is the, this is the how and why the mental health program really came to fruition. And this really reflects a lot of what we were experiencing at the time. They were statewide and nationwide trends. So it was not just happening in our communities, but we saw a rise in mental health need. So our goal was the development and really that integration of a comprehensive mental health and wellness program built on prevention and identification, evaluation, and treatment for all of the students in our district. Next. Some of the evolution of our program, we really wanted to, and we did, focus on a homegrown program to support and sustain a level of continuity of care that we did not have when we were contracting with outside agencies. We started our program with 21 therapists. We quickly seen the need, the mental health needs unfolded, and we looked at ways to reorganize and meet the demands of those needs of our students and our families and our staff. Currently, we have 31 therapists. That does not include myself, Associate Manager Joanne Michaels, and our clinical supervisor, Stephanie Lemoy. And we will continue to expand next year with 4 additional therapists through our therapeutic programs that we are also making. We are no longer working with outside agencies and keeping it a model of sustainability and continuity of care and services. All right. So let's go on to next. I hope I'm not going too fast. I'm just trying to give you an overview of the program itself before I get into more of the meat. This work is not done in isolation. So there is no way, shape, and form that I believe that our amazing wellness team are the only people that are supporting the needs of our students. The success and efforts of this program, the support of students and family is really, it's just not attributed to the efforts of one group of people, but rather our entire district and community. So, and that is really evident in some of our panorama data that you'll see on the next slide. And it shows here, that students, who will they reach out to, right? If they're overwhelmed, if they're stressed, if they need support. And there are a plethora of people. Thankfully, it's family. We know it's their peers who hold strong influences, teachers, coaches, just different staff members on campus, not just school and wellness counselors, but our administrators, our campus aides, our IAs. So really fortunate to have data like this to say, okay, this is great. We're doing the work and it's everybody. It's a community approach. Next. So this is where I have to, Kevin and I were talking a little bit before, and he knows I get very excited when I talk about this program. It's very near and dear to my heart, as well as the students and families we serve. So I agreed that I would highlight just a few of the 6 years of our program, and start with that this timeline really shows growth and leveraging as all part of a bigger team. Our first year, was just such a high learning curve and building relationships. We worked really closely with Stanford, Dr. Shashank Joshi, Vicki Moore, Dr. Steve Adelsheim, Peninsula Healthcare District. We were able to build the plane while flying it at the same time with all of their support. We also won our first Kent Award that first year of our program. Our second year, we implemented a Tier 1 early identification system, universal screener, brought in an interactive training simulation for our teachers and staff to really learn best practices in identifying struggling students, and that's called Cognito. Year 3, Peninsula Healthcare District, we started the Stanford Teen Mobile Health Van, and that has been a game changer for our students that have no or very little access to healthcare, and for students that do have access to healthcare but want to meet with somebody for more sensitive personal needs can use the health van. They have also been instrumental in COVID testing and COVID vaccines. So we are continuing that grant into next year. So we're excited about that. Our multi-tiered systems of support and really focusing on the work that we're doing and making it more streamlined. Our fourth year, telehealth, our online platform for supporting students' mental health needs. Because we were in distance learning, we really had to learn that system and learn it well. And we were able to do that and really bring that into future years and support students on a different level as needed. Hired our first social worker for our English language learners, working with Dr. Showman closely on the needs of our English language learner students. District equity work, super important. We also earned our second Kent Award for our TUPE, Tobacco Use Prevention and Education Program. And our fifth year this year, one highlight is our extended learning opportunity grant, where we were able to hire 4 additional mental health therapists to work with our most historically marginalized populations. So we were able to take one therapist that we had working between 4 sites with our EL students to now having one therapist at each of those sites working with our students. And that has been especially helpful with the exponential growth in our bridge program. We also work extremely closely with special education and their therapeutic programs for next year and building those out. Okay, next. Okay, so this is a little bit about prevention and impact. I think that it's really about our student-centered approach and always looking for those relationships to be able to build out thoughts and ideas into, tier 1 supports, tier 2 supports, not waiting, not waiting for the ball to drop, but really taking that preventative approach and not waiting for students to show up and have behavioral or social emotional issues and impacts, that we want to be able to come in and say, how do we support? How do we know before we know? How do we give to them what they need to be successful at school, as well as outside of school. Our Care Solace, our contracted mental health care coordination services has served over 3,000 students and families this year alone. I also like to give a little plug here. Joanne Michaels has a former counterpart in Palo Alto that had been using Care Solace and said, hey, you might want to check this out. And we brought this on board. Kevin, the entire council was for this. And we brought this to the County Office of Education, who now has a grant and supports Care Solace throughout San Mateo County schools. So I always like to give a little plug for that in our relationship building. And then our grants, and just our evaluation and rethinking, reorganizing our mental health program. Okay, next. I'm trying to go as fast as possible. I'd really be amiss to not acknowledge our nationwide mental health crisis. And, I think everybody was wondering if I was going to say that, if I was going to bring that into the space, and absolutely I will. And, the American Association of Pediatrics and the US Surgeon General declared a state of emergency on children and teen mental health this year. We know that, mental health challenges in children and adolescents and young adults are real and they're widespread. And unfortunately, our students and communities are not immune to this nationwide mental health crisis. We have seen huge increases. And when I say huge, we're talking 800% increases of social emotional assessments that we're providing. We've gone from providing 13 in a school year to now 171. We have had a 42% increase in our 504 student plans over the past 3 years. And a lot of those are qualifiers under anxiety, depression, ADHD, school avoidance. Student risk assessments and actual student 5150s hospitalizations have more than tripled over the last 3 years. And we are at the highest. This year has been the highest that we've seen and that I've seen in my 22 plus years in education. Next slide. So the next two slides are panorama survey slides. And, this is equally to what we are seeing in nation trends. Our students are also showing trends towards being disconnected from our own school communities. We see a decline in student sense of belonging by 2% from last year. And this graph on the right shows that even though our students have a relatively low sense of belonging, they are actually right about the 50th percentile when compared to high school students across the nation. Basically, what we're saying is that our students are on average in relation to other high school students. We know that we are above average. We are, sorry, my mom's calling me right now, that we're above average, right? We're not settling for this. So we're really looking at this data, right? We're giving these panorama data surveys to our students, to our families. We want this data. We want to engage in conversation. We want to know what we don't know. And we all know that teens will not sugarcoat it, and they will tell us what's going on for them. Next slide. So we are taking this data and not just the good data, and we're looking at program improvement constantly. And again, within relationships, I think I'm running between student services and EL and special education and curriculum and assessment all the time, and working together collaboratively just to figure out how do we constantly improve. Okay, next slide. So this is a snapshot of the services that we provide, both individual and drop-in services. So these are not all of our services. These are just 2 of our tier 1 interventions, and you can see the increase. And we have also incorporated telehealth. So some students that are unable to come to school for whatever reason, we can now support through telehealth mental health services. This does not include our tier 2 interventions, our groups, which we have facilitated over 35 therapeutic groups this school year on anxiety, on healthy masculinity, stress management, grief, for our newcomer students, for our EL students that are actually transitioning from EL classes, but still need that support. And we have mental health therapists that are able to support with that in their native language. All of our students have a connection to wellness, either through classroom presentations, school-wide presentations. We get into those 9th grade classes. We go into guided studies, to AVID, EL, special education. We work with leadership, right? Their International Week, rallies, Chalk Fest, Stress Busters, Lip Dubs. We have connections through club advisors. So a lot of our therapists are also club advisors for Bring Change to Mind, La Raza Unida, for the Gay Straight Alliance, Christian Club. They oversee productions of dramas and school musical plays. Next. These 2 slides are probably my favorite, along with the 2 in the beginning, because it showcases a lot of the community as a whole and what we do as a community and come together. And we really look at ourselves, and we say our motto is wellness without walls. So we're not waiting in our offices. We're positioning ourselves in the community where we often do our best work. So we're out with the students. This slide here, it shows our bridge students. We had 80 students in the 5 years that we've had the bridge program. This is the first year that we've had 1 therapist devoted to our bridge students, which was in the nick of time, now that we have 80 students, and the highest amount that have reached out and connected with wellness. We also have pictures here of our Cappuccino Saga, who for 2 years running before the pandemic ran our drag show. So you see that up in the two upper right-hand pictures. And if you go to the next slide, we're part of recognition ceremonies. The Peninsula basketball team is coached by Fred and Laura, an AP and a mental health therapist. And these are the things that we lean into on some of our hardest days. This is the work. Okay, next slide. Okay, so leveraging funding for equitable support. There's complexities, right, when building and engaging our commitment to this work. And one of our key values is our established relationships with stakeholders that really speak our language, right, which is, creating, sustaining, expanding effective supportive mental health care. So we're really lucky that we are communicating with all of these, all of our stakeholders, and have built great thought partner relationships as well. Next slide. And our continuous growth. We know there's nobody on this Zoom that doesn't know that we as a district find mental health as an integral part of well-being, and it's a fundamental value of our district. And we really stress that importance of prevention, our commitment to growth within our professional development, exchanging ideas. We really want to continue to work with our boots on the ground people, the people that are really supporting this continuity of care, the people that are the faces to wellness, that are the faces to who that trusted adult is on campus. So we are committed to continuing this work, continuing these conversations, and continuing to look at this hard data to be able to move the needle in the direction and pivot to best support and to just, not be part of these national trends. Next slide. So here's where I want to thank you. And I put know your resources on here. It's important that we always know our resources, and this exact resource, know your resources, is on the back of every student ID card. And it has been for the past 3 years. And it was a brilliant idea, and it came from the AB 2022. And so we're excited to showcase that as well. But I do want to thank, I know that Dr. Skelly is leaving us, and I've told him in private that I've appreciated his guidance and mentorship, and he has really supported this program. I thank Kirk, Dr. Black, because I'm constantly going into his office, as well as Dawn Scatena's office and Dr. Showman's office, just, trying to figure things out. And I want to thank all of you, the board, because I've had many individual conversations and group conversations, and you have all been such a great support in this program. I personally never imagined that we would be where we're at. And I am grateful that we have the people behind this to make it happen for our students, our families, and our staff and communities. Thank you. I hope that was fast enough.
Thank you for your presentation.
Take that down.
I see a hand raised. Is there a public comment?
We do have Ms. Andrade Zuniga and Greg Land who want to make comments. We don't have any public comments, do we?
I see.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
one.
Someone's raised their hand. Would you like me to bring them in now?
Yeah, please. Yeah, we'll bring them in.
Hello, friends.
Hi, Shashank.
I'll wait my turn.
It is your turn.
No, it is your turn. We take public comments. Yeah.
Well, I have been a long admirer and was fortunate to be a partner in this work back in the 20-teens when Kendi and April brought us in with Ashley, and we would have regular meetings, the healthcare district, and who would have known how far you've flown and how much of a model you've become. And it's fitting that Dr. Skelly's got this formal occasion of retirement here, because I've learned so much as a dad and a human, in addition to being a Stanford professor, when Kevin was in Palo Alto. And we always think about his authenticity and his realness. Someone shared the story of him shooting buckets with the Burlingame guys. I mean, this is what Kevin does. He came to the baseball game a couple of weeks ago to see Gunn High School playing in the postseason, and you just live it, Kevin. We learn by just watching you, and you've mentored so many people, and April, that presentation was not only powerful and terrific, but it reflects the reality of what you've all done in this district. You are not a community mental health center, and yet you are charged with the community's mental health. And you have embodied how mental health is part of overall health, and our children have to be healthy enough to learn, and our teachers and staff have to be healthy enough to reach and teach all the students. So thank you for this work and for presenting it on this day, which is very fitting to celebrate Dr. Skelly as well. And keep going. We're going to keep learning with you.
Thank you, Shashank. And I just want to give a plug for Shashank. I also reach out to him quite often, and he even got back to me when he was at the Tears for Fears concert. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Let's see, board members. Trustee Zuniga, I believe you're first.
Yes, thank you so much for your presentation, April. This is so important. You are right. We have a huge mental health issue in our country right now, especially with our young people. A few weeks ago, my family lost my nephew to, he died by suicide, and he was not that far off from his 17th birthday. You know, as a family, you never think it's going to hit you in your, in your reality and your experience. And it did. So this is why this is so important. And it takes an entire community and takes an entire village to be able to make sure that our youth, our young people are healthy in every which way. Also, we are very fortunate in our district that we do take this very seriously, and that we have enough resources to be able to provide this support for not only our students, but for their families and for our staff, our administrators, everyone, making sure that we're all healthy. However, there's still always more that we can do, right? We still need more mental health counselors. We still need more wellness counselors. We still need more support. So, moving forward, I just want to make sure that we keep providing enough support and resources into this type of service. A lot of the services you mentioned, like Care Solace, have been amazing, but again, it's just, it takes an entire village. It can't be just focusing on just parents or just the wellness counselor. It's everybody. So your presentation was super timely and extremely important. So I really thank you for all the work that you do, and all of our wellness counselors and social workers and everyone in our district that are they're one-on-one with our students, because sometimes you all are in the front lines of what our students need and what they're, how they're communicating what's going on. So thank you.
Thank you, Lihia. I appreciate that. And our school counselors, we work so closely with them too. And
yeah,
we don't want to, give more in one area and not support the other, because then it taxes the other department. So thank you for that.
Yes, Trustee Land.
Thank you. April, I just want to say you did such a comprehensive job in this, and it was very impressive. I love to see the evolution that we've done, and that truly, we started, I remember years ago where we started, and just getting it started off the ground with the mental health and with Cindy and Kindy, and how it transferred over to you, and it's just been amazing at how this has grown. I think, yeah, it really, I'm just very proud of this program, and I just want to say, one of the couple of things that you said that really resonated with me is it goes beyond one department. It really is a bunch of departments, and you're going beyond that. And the one slide with wellness without walls. I mean, that is really it right there, because the only way we're going to reach our kids is to be in there and everything. And it's not easy to go to a counselor. It's not easy to outreach for help. And so however we can do it, I think one of the things that I was debating about with other educators in a different area was we were talking about how certain cultures have a really hard time even thinking about going to a therapist or talking to somebody about something. It's not family. So if you're not family, I'm not going to talk to you. And, you know, just talking about the Bridges program and having a counselor there, I mean, that is just, then you're one of them, you're part of the group. And, you know, and mentioning all the activities is exactly what I think is the right thing. And it's a model to look at, and everybody else is saying it, and I'm saying it now too. It's just the leadership. I want to thank the leadership. I want to thank that we're doing the resources. I think Trustee Zuniga said it really well. It's like, we got to keep using the resources. We got to keep investing in this. This is an investment. It's not just a one-shot deal. We got to keep it growing and keep it happening, because mental health is just a huge issue right now because of the pandemic, and it just started. It's the tip of the iceberg. So just thank you so much, April, and everyone, all the counselors and everything.
Yeah, thank you. We're only as good as our team. So thank you. Thank you.
Trustee Dwyer.
Okay, I want to thank you, April, for your leadership, because I believe that I remember you first came, and I look at what it was like then and what it's like now. And it just seems like the more you experience, the more you learn, the more you bring in people, the more that's accomplished and more that's done. And there's just been, you've been faced with so many things with COVID, and then the post-COVID kids returning to school. So many issues came up through the last couple of years that had to make everything so much more complicated for you and your team. And yet here we are today. I think that the review you did for us is excellent. I also really appreciate the connectivity that you and your team are achieving between all staff on site to support mental health, to be aware, to identify, to share, to help. All these things that are happening, and it really goes back to leadership and the people that you and your leaders that you've brought, to the table here to do the work with all the students. I think as it continues on and things expand and things change, I look forward to seeing all the other things you're going to do, because I know that it seems to me that you learn from everything you do. And so then you look at another way of doing this, or expanding this, or encouraging more people. And those things are helping so many people grow and supporting students in a way that is so beneficial to them. So I just thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda. I appreciate that.
Trustee Griffin.
I just have a quick comment. I want to thank you, April, for your leadership, and thank you for your team and the work you do. It is important work. It's been critical during this COVID, and if COVID ever does leave us, we still need that work, just because of the way where we are as a society, the way we treat others, the lack of compassion. We've kind of all got to get back to that space in of a kinder, gentler world. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I won't repeat what's already been said, but I was concerned for several years about the ability to sustain this program. So I appreciate that we've made considerable progress in being able to create a sustainable model here. And so it is critical work for us, and building a sustainable model has been great progress in moving this program forward. So I appreciate the work that you've done and your leadership there. But I'm also going to move us on, given the huge agenda that we still have to get through.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all of mental health and wellness and school counselors and everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation tonight. We have a public hearing next for the to 24 local control accountability plan, the LCAP.
Yeah, so I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Kemke. I don't know if you have anything to add, or I think this is just something we have to do, so it shouldn't take too long.
I'm going to open the public hearing right now and let Dr. Kemke make any presentation that she wants to make on this, and then we'll take any comments, public comments that anyone wants to make.
We presented most of what was covered in the LCAP at our last meeting, so we're keeping our comments to a minimum, and you can just open up the public hearing and we'll see if there's comments from our public.
Okay.
It looks like we don't have any comments from the public.
Okay. The data and the information is available on the website for anybody who wishes to review the LCAP and the LCAP data and the history that goes into making the LCAP. So I will close the public hearing right now on the LCAP. Moving to L3, we have a public hearing and presentation of the tentative annual budget for fiscal year 22-23.
Right. So, Mr. Hawkins, I'm going to turn this over to you. But as with the LCAP, a lot of work happens, and then you get to June, and it's all sort of anticlimactic. And with the budget, there's similar things here. I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Hawkins.
So let me open the public hearing and let Mr. Hawkins make whatever presentation or comments, and then we will take any public comments on the budget.
All right, Shar, can we pull up the presentation? All right, thank you. As Dr. Skelly noted and Dr. Kemke, we do a lot of this work throughout the year. We've been getting updates on the budgets throughout the years at the interims, including multi-year projections that include the 22-23 budget. We got an update on the governor's budget in January earlier this year as well. And then we did a lot of work at the April budget study session where the board approved most of the major assumptions that are going into this, including enrollment and staffing. We'll have two budget meetings, the budget will come at 2 meetings in June. This one will include the tentative budget, which includes the general fund. On the 23rd, we'll bring this back. It should be very similar to the budget that's brought forth tonight, but we'll also include the multi-year projection, which is the 2 out years as part of our AB 1200 obligations, as well as all of the other funds that make up the school budget. Next slide. I'm going to quickly go over our budget guidelines, give you an overview of the governor's May revise, do a dive into the budget assumptions, and then quickly go over enrollment projections and staffing projections. We'll talk about the STRS and PERS impacts of PERS and STRS rates, the impacts of the one-time COVID-19 relief funds that the district has received, go over the changes since our April budget study session, and we'll go over talk about next steps. Next slide, please. Whenever looking at our budget, it's important to look at our guidelines that are included in the narrative that was attached to the budget items. I just want to talk about just a couple of these and highlight on budget development, really develop a budget that aligns with the district's goals and priorities. This means working with Dr. Kemke and the LCAP and ensuring that we have alignment between our goals and where our money is being spent. In terms of budget monitoring and clarity, especially with the amount of one-time money that we've been receiving lately, any initiative that uses one-time money will need to indicate how the program will wind down or what funds will be used to continue the program. These programs can be vulnerable to cuts. Next slide. The last one I want to highlight is that the district must ensure it is able to meet its financial commitments each year and temper its desire to innovate and invest in new priorities or provide raises with clear evaluation of district's current and anticipated fiscal condition. Next slide. The governor's May revision, every year, the governor puts out a January budget and then makes a major revision in May. Most of the proposals primarily impact state-funded districts, but I'll hit the main items that impact us. The largest is a proposal for a one-time $8 billion discretionary block grant. This is similar, but has different requirements than the legislature's plan. So we'll be watching that, but it does look like there'll be some one-time money coming the district's way. Also, the federal government provided funding for universal access to school meals, and the state will be taking on that obligation moving forward in the governor's proposal. There's funding for school facilities, which we'll talk about later in some work, especially at the 23rd when we talk about the work we're doing at the Burlingame Gym, as well as funding for deferred maintenance. There's also $1.5 billion for competitive grants for zero emission school bus fleets, which the district has an interest in moving towards. Probably most notably what wasn't in the budget, which was no relief for school employer CalSTRS and CalPERS rate increases. Next slide. These budget assumptions are very similar to the ones that were approved by the board at the April meeting. A couple that have changed that I'll highlight. Assessed valuation went from 6.3% to 7.6% based upon the county's property tax assessed value tracker. The salary increase, there was no salary increase included in the April study session. We now have a tentative agreement with our teachers union, so we've included a 4.5% increase in line with that. We'll talk about PERS and STRS, but they have increased significantly. And one piece of good news is we saw a slight decrease in our workers' compensation rate, moving down just a tick to 1.54%. Next slide. As we've been discussing, the district has started a slow, steady decline, and our projections are projecting that will continue over the next several years. It's important to note that that decline is not equal across all of our sites, with some staying flat and others declining more significantly, and that's primarily in the north of the district at Cappuccino and Mills. Next slide, please. The staffing projections are roughly the same as they were at the work study. It's important to note over the last couple of years, our certificated staffing has stayed relatively flat. Classified has seen an increase that's primarily related to needs in our special education department, one-on-one aides, as well as we talked about some of those one-time funding from the state and federal government related to COVID, specifically health aides and COVID testing. The change in administration is mostly due to the reinstatement of the facility use department, which was primarily shut down for a year and a half due to the COVID pandemic. Next slide. Since 2013, we've seen a massive increase, and the STRS rate has formally been set at 19.1%. That's almost, well, that's over 10% above the 8.25% that we used to pay back in 2013 as a school district. The funding for the STRS plan has really been put on the shoulders of individual school districts. And to put it in perspective, that increase of 10% in the STRS rate could fund an additional 50 teachers in the school district. So that's just kind of to put that into perspective of the impact to our district of the rising STRS cost, the state mandated STRS cost. Next slide. PERS, we've seen a similar change, although those rates are projected to continue increasing while the STIRS rate is now finally projected to go flat or only a small increase. Next slide. We've received over $15 million over the last 2 years in COVID relief funding. The list below is the remaining amounts that we are spending down. We've taken a 3-year step down approach. This year is the first year of these funds. And then we will use the ESSER 2 and 3 funds, as well as the remainder of the Expanded Learning Opportunity Grant to take a 1/3 step down next year and another 1/3 step down in 23-24. Next slide. The main changes since the April budget session, study session, we noted 6.3% assessed value growth in April and the 7.6%. That equates to about $2 million. The salary schedule increase of 4.5% equates to a little over $5 million annually. One thing to highlight here, our property and liability insurance rates are increasing significantly each year. This year, almost 15%. And I noted the slight down about 0.16% decrease in our workers' compensation rates. Next slide. Overall, we see a very minor deficit of less than 0.25% for the 22-23 public hearing budget, and our ending fund balance of just over 16%, which is above the board's required 12% reserve. Next slide. In terms of next steps, at the 23rd meeting, we will bring the 22-23 budget and LCAP for approval. We continue daily to monitor the county's assessed value tracker. One of the huge things we noted is those one-time COVID-19 funds, and really, we'll talk about that at the end there. We're finalizing negotiations. We're getting close on that. We'll look in August for our final enrollment and staffing. And then we'll analyze how long-term management plans align with the district's goals and LCAP. We'll manage fund balances and financial resources to maintain long-term fiscal solvency and stability. And we'll resist the using future projected dollars or one-time monies to justify paying for ongoing expenditures. Next slide. We can pull that down. I just wanted to end, and I'd be remiss. We have Valerie Miller and Vanessa Castano. I have the honor of coming up here and giving the presentation, but 95% or 99% probably of the work is done by Valerie and Vanessa, and I thank them. This is an incredibly long process, and it takes a ton of work, and I just thank them so much. With that, I'm happy to open it up to questions from the board.
So does the board have any questions? I don't see any hands raised in the from the public attendees.
I have some questions.
Trustee Griffin.
Yeah, I appreciate the work. What I want to know is, where's the cartoon?
Former President Griffin, you hadn't liked my last few cartoons, and I was starting to feel a little sad, so I left it out this time.
That's okay.
I'll send you a private accounting related CPA.
Yeah, I
might be able to find one.
Debit's on the window side, the credit's on the door side, something like that. For all us accountants. You know, I think the budget, you've highlighted a couple of things that I was glad to see. And one of them was managing those unspent COVID funds, which are like maybe 13 million. And I think they're all kind of earmarked right now. But, you know, I'm kind of like, if we have to pivot and, you know, change safety gear or increase testing when we come back, it seems like our reserve would be, you know, and, you know, the government doesn't get the, you know, in order for the government to give us any more money to, you know, for any COVID, it takes a while to get the machine cranked up and print that money. It seems like we have enough reserves to kind of get us through any pivot we might have to go through, at least initially, to increase our safety, our testing, or make any changes to our COVID protocols. Because I'm concerned about how we handle that money and that we have enough that we don't, overspend in the budget.
So I agree with your view and of the reserve. We do have a reserve balance that is above the 12% required for the board. So that absolutely could be used if we need to pivot and increase our testing or our safety protocols. But also there is one-time money proposed in both the legislature and the governor's budget, which I have not included in the adopted budget because we just don't know, what that's going to be, whether it's unrestricted, restricted, what it could be used for. So it's likely that we could use those funds as well. But I agree with your view.
And I also like the one-time money for one-time expenses and ongoing revenues to support ongoing programs. And I was, I think you forecast a moderate deficit of like $447,913. And I bet you we end up with carryovers and stuff. We end up with a positive balance, because it's always the way. There'll be some unspent funds that will get carried over. So, I mean, it's just the way life is. So that transfer, was that to deferred maintenance, not to deferred maintenance, was that to the sinking fund?
Yeah, we have a transfer to the sinking fund, but we also have a transfer of the RDA dollars that come from our agreements from the redevelopment agencies that are being, as well as a 1.5% transfer to the deferred maintenance fund, which used to be Fund 14, but now we carry in Fund 21.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I am going to close the public hearing for this evening on the budget. And we will bring the budget back for final approval on the 23rd. And in the meantime, the budget is available on the website, and the public can review it between now and the 23rd. So L4 is schematic design drawings, budget, and schedule for the Peninsula High School beautification project.
Thank you very much. We have Todd Lee here, Peninsula High School Principal Ron Campana, our QKA architect Mark Quadroki here, and we want to walk you through the improvements that we're going to make to the Peninsula High School site here. So I'm going to turn this back over to you, Yancey.
Thank you so much. All right, well, I'll turn it over to Mark Quattrochi of QKA Architects to go through some of the process that we went in really, making Peninsula High School feel more like home for our staff and students at that high school. So Mark, if you want to take it away.
Great, thank you so much. I think Mr. Hawking said it very well. The real goal here was to work with staff and students and to begin to find a way to better reflect the culture that's Peninsula High School, both in the sort of how we deal with colors, but also site features. Their real interest is to reflect their culture and a bit of their own school spirit. So with that in mind, next slide, please. Just kind of outlining, it was a great inclusive process. We've had a long, wonderful history with the staff. This was no exception to just great input and thoughts. That list on the right is a great example of like a list that we got just from students alone. We had multiple meetings with staff. We toured the site again just to sort of refamiliarize ourselves with it, and then began to work with our landscape architects and our team to provide the staff a variety of alternates. Those are really productive sessions. They gave us great feedback. We went through a variety of color options with them as well. And so I'm pleased to say that what we're presenting today is sort of the considered opinion of a lot of people. You can see sort of a list of some of the things that we looked at from banners and sculptures, but a lot of the work fell on the sort of landscape improvements that could be done, as well as the exterior painting. So next slide, please. Oh, actually, the next slide we can skip. You all know where Peninsula High School is, but of course it's off Hinckley Road. So this plan, I won't go into a lot, there's a lot of information here. This was one of a number of documents we used with the staff, but using this site plan to identify the things we can do to the exterior before we get into landscaping. So starting off on the bottom left, that was clearly identified as the most important sort of point of entry for the school. It's a little hard to see in this image, but there's a puma sculpture that we'll put in the landscaping. You'll see in a moment, we'll be changing that landscaping. And then even you can see the march of those black and yellow banners, black and gold banners, again, sort of reflecting the school colors. Those are on those steel columns. Within the courtyard itself, we're providing some color. There you can see the series of chairs right in the middle there. There used to be a couple seat walls there. One of the needs they had was greater places to assemble. So removing those provides an opportunity to assemble. But then you can also see these sort of brown little rectangles. They represent a whole series of benches. There was a real interest in more gathering, both covered and uncovered spaces for gathering. The top of the slide shows some display cases. There's a lot of student pride they want to show. And on the top right, that end wall that faces the turf area is just a blank concrete wall. And they're looking for a place for sort of a senior student project, probably tiles. It's an ideal location for that. And then lastly, on the far right on the basketball court, you can see we're adding benches. It was a really great tour because what we saw were just a lot of chairs that were thrown around, and clearly providing better places to sit was important to them. Next, please. This is the landscape plan. I think I'll suffice it to say that without getting into the species, great conversations. The students, I will say, had a lot of input here. The planting we provided previously, these are all bioswales for the most part, and they're very specific grasses that are needed to do what we do in bioswales, both clean water, stormwater, before it percolates into the earth and not going into the stormwater system. However, there is an opportunity to provide more color and still do that. And I think that was a really fair comment by the students particularly, is could we do that, but do that with a more colorful way, flowers that might, throughout the better part of the year, plants that would flower for the better part of the year. So you can see a whole variety of them here. There was a couple comments on them, we've adjusted. I will say we're still refining a couple of them, but for all intents and purposes, this is the direction we're going. One thing to point out on the far right corner there is the basketball court. It's a chain link fence that we're unable to put slats on because it would be too much wind resistance and potentially bend the fence, but it's a pretty undesirable view there. So one of our ideas was to use a flowering vine, and that's precisely what we put there. So that sort of orange line there represents where the flowering vine will be. We sort of settled on a purple flower for that as well. So it's a great landscape plan. Next. And then lastly, and I think the most interesting and spirited conversation was around a whole lot of options for colors. As we all know, everybody has their own sort of thoughts about colors, and even when you look at a color on screen, is it really the right color? So we went through probably a dozen different options and settled on one that really spoke a lot to staff and students around the school colors. Again, it's the gold and black. And so you can see we already had gold before. If you've been to the site, it's really that center where you see the mascot, that was already gold. They're asking us to take some of what is now gray and add more of the gold. So that's really all that's been done here. So we just add a little bit more gold, and then the columns on the right-hand side there, you can see have black. And then once again, you can see the gold and black banners on those. And the colors that we're using are on that bottom there. Next. And that view, of course, was the one from Hinckley. The bottom view here is the one from the parking lot looking into the courtyard. It's a very important one. And then the top one is the west elevation. That's from the driveway that gets you to the backyard. And the east side is similar. So you can see we've just sort of taken that color, that gold, that spoke really very much to particularly the students as a way to do some good branding for the building. And I think they're also looking to sort of lighten it up and make it a little bit more of this of the culture of Peninsula High School. So these were met with a great deal of approval. And we're hopefully they're approved by the board and we're able to get started on this. Next, which brings me to my next slide, which is the schedule. Just quickly, our goal, pending your approval today, thanks to Todd Lee, we have ourselves all ready to go out to bid. Both the two biggest topics are the painting and the planting. We really want to get those done during the summer. We can do that. Some of the other items will take a little longer. So as you can see, he's got us bidding right away. And then if you sort of jump down to the July 5th to July 22nd, that's when the painting and the planting work would be done. So students would come back to all new colors and all new planting. In the meantime, there's a lot of lead time for things like the benches, the banners. There's a design and fabrication for those, and the display board. And then we have a separate, that long blue line is that sculpture. That will take a while. I've done a few schools where we've done the sculptures. That just takes some time. The goal will be, as you'll see in construction, that the benches and those sorts of things will happen in early fall. And our hope is by November, then the statue is complete. The goal will be, the biggest work will be done over summer, and certainly by the end of 2022, all these improvements that staff has asked for could all be in place. Next. And then the last slide, Todd was good enough to put together a budget for us. And without getting into too much detail, you can see the overall construction cost. There's several contingencies that are in there. Some of this estimating was done before we were far enough along, so it provides some opportunities for what might be increased cost. There's a landscape architect and design fees, and then there's some just miscellaneous expenses. All told, everything you saw on those two boards and the colored elevations, just shy of $400,000. So it seems to be a very successful design process that I think got staff and students to a place where they feel pretty good. Next. So clearly, any comments or questions the board has, we can go back to any of the drawings you'd like.
Well, I'd like to give the principal, Ron Campana, a chance just to give a quick his thoughts on the process on that, and then if we can go to questions after that.
Thanks, Mr. Hawkins. First off, I want to thank the team for really kind of getting us along in this process and really listening to our needs, and also to Dr. Skelly and the board for just kind of listening over the year to kind of some of the concerns we had. And so in this last couple of months, I think what Mark really points out is we got to a place where people were in agreement of what we wanted. It makes it feel more like the school we want it to be. I think the comment that I heard from some of the board members and staff and students that there was a lot of upgrades, but it felt cold. And I think what you see here is that this warms the school up. It makes it feel more like the school we want. And also the key piece is that the staff and the students have been involved. And so initially, I think it needs to be said with the color schemes that Mark shared is that there was a lot of disagreement about what was popular and what was not, particularly among the staff. And blue was not as popular. And I'm sorry, Yancey, there was a lot of blue and gold in there. Sorry, Greg, as well. But that was shot down a little bit. And so the good news was, and I could say this safely, we did a poll among students and staff, and 92% voted for the color schemes that are selected. And so we selected, and we were able to get over 40% of the students to vote and all the staff. So I think you have a comprehensive answer of how the staff and the students feel. Those are my main comments. I think the one thing that was really interesting is that the students got more involved in the plants, which Mark kind of highlighted. And what was interesting is that a lot of their concerns were not just about colors and knowing how plants will thrive, but was allergies and things that would attract bees and other things. So they were very in tuned, and a lot of the comments came out. So I really appreciate the time, and I think we're going to have something that's going to be great for the school going forward. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Land, you had some question?
Yeah, actually, question and comment. One, first of all, I think we really did a good job of, soliciting information from the staff and getting their input and getting the student input. I think you've really solved a lot of some problems, addressing some of the concerns and addressing some of the wants and needs of our student body. But in looking a little closer, my biggest concern is about space. I still think you have some indoor space issues that I didn't think got addressed. I think they talked about a mindfulness room. I don't know if that came into play, and also a garden school, a student garden of some sort. So I'm wondering about those things and if those are going to be in the future or where is that at, especially the space stuff?
Ron and I might be able to tag team on those issues. You're quite right about the mindfulness room came up. And sadly, there was just no solution to that other than there is the multi-use space that, and I didn't mention providing some film on that to provide some privacy, that might provide some opportunity for that. But you are quite right. There's just a limited amount of enclosed space that they have for that. So there was no solution provided except recognizing that would be possible during some times of the day to use the multi-use space. And I'm sorry, the second point that you made, I've just completely lost it.
It was really about space and just making more common indoor common space.
Oh, the gardens. Yeah.
So
and that's another really good point. We did talk about the student gardens. It has sort of a limit. You're right about the real estate limitations we had. We looked at the turf area, the basketball courts, and the parking we can't take any area out of. And it was sort of this recognition is we just don't have the real estate without taking away something that was even as meaningful or more meaningful for the student garden. But no argument, that was something they had also asked about. Those are two boxes we couldn't check, unfortunately.
Yeah, okay, Trustee Land, I do think that the limiting factor is the size of that site. But we are looking at other options to potentially find solutions. We're trying to get as creative as possible to finding some expanded space that we actually could do some of that. So more to come on that in the next couple of months, but we are looking into options that may support those needs.
Okay, I think that's important. Thank you.
Trustee Dwyer.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentations. I think it's wonderful. I like the colors. I'm so glad it was so inclusive. And I see this as a beginning because we need more space. So, and I think that the design you're putting into place, all of it will lend itself to being expanded as we expand the space. So I am so happy to see that it's going to look like a school. I think that's something that that just got left out with the changes that had to happen due to the sea level and all that stuff. But now it's going to look like a school. And this is just a tremendously good beginning for the improvements that I would hope that we will have as time goes on at Peninsula. So thank you.
So if it's okay, I'd like to just make a couple of comments too. Early in the school year, we had a heartfelt presentation from the Peninsula High staff about some of their concerns about the space. And besides this work here, we're also doing the soundproofing work this summer that was a concern from staff. We're also we were able to get a social worker hired for that staff. Daniel's last name escapes me now, who's really doing wonderful work with students and also working with summer school. We've also worked hard on the technology issues. We're going to make sure that in the fall that we have the site able to use all the performance features that they have here. We still have some challenges to go, but we're also looking at adding another staff member who would serve as a campus supervisor as well as an instructional aide to move into the classrooms and support specific classrooms in there. So we've got work to do here in terms of safety issues and other pieces. I don't know if Mr. Campana, you want to expand on anything I've said here, but there's lots of work and lots of thinking going on around Peninsula as we think about the coming year.
No, the only thing I would add is Daniel Tostado is the social worker.
Thank you.
And he's also working summer school. And I think to highlight the point about the technology piece that Dr. Skelly's bringing up, a lot of these issues have been fixed. And the greatest thing right now is we have summer school at Peninsula High School at the Bridge program. And so they're using the technology. So any of the bugs per se that are still in the technology are being used. And so far, we've found that the system's working really well. So knock on wood, but I think we have classes that are being used. The technology appears to be fixed. and teachers seem to be able to benefit from it. So that's my only addition.
Thanks.
I move approval of the schedule, design, budget, and schedule for the Peninsula High School beautification project.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from trustee Dwyer, a second from trustee Land. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
trustee Land,
Yes.
trustee Dwyer,
Yes.
and I vote yes also. So that is approved 5-0. Thank you very much for your presentation and your work on this. I think it's a huge step forward. There's more work to be done, but this is progress.
Thank you very much. It was very good to see you all. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So we talked about construction earlier. Let's move to human resources and approval personnel actions.
We have personnel actions and addendum. We have a couple longevity recognitions. Peter Medine, a social science teacher at Burlingame, resigned effective May 27th after 16 years. And Johnny Sao, a math teacher at Hillsdale, resigned on May 27th after 14 years in the district. And a few appointments. We have Jen Fong as the principal of Burlingame High School. Dominic Begue and Alfred Wolfgram have moved from assistant principal 1 to assistant principal 2. And then Ronald Newhouse is our new auditorium manager. And Jennifer Villefort is our behavior program manager. Excuse me.
Thank you.
I move
Sure.
approval.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from trustee Dwyer, second from trustee Land. Trustee Griffin,
Yes.
trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
trustee Dwyer, or trustee
Yes.
Land,
Almost. Yes.
trustee Dwyer,
Yes.
and I vote yes also. So personnel actions are approved 5-0. Review, discuss, and approve the 21-22 reclassification of classified positions for the accounting group.
Yeah, each year the Joint Committee of Classified and District Staff conduct a reclassification process. There's a 5-year rotation for review of all job categories, and this year it was the accounting division. Attached is the report and then the job description revisions of these positions. The process includes a job duty and salary comparison for each of the classifications. That it's done through examining similar positions in neighboring districts to determine average and relative salaries. A second step is the analysis of the district's job ladder, and with the idea to ensure that any recommended adjustments do not have a negative impact on advancement and operational hierarchy. This year, there are 4 positions that went through the reclass process and are recommended for salary schedule adjustments. The total cost would be, total annual cost of this recommendation would be just under $86,000 yearly. It would include 18 FTEs, 2 accountants, almost 7 accounting technicians, 6.8, 3 payroll technicians, and 6 site accounting technicians. So we recommend approval of these reclassifications.
I'll move adoption of the recommendation.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from trustee Griffin, second from trustee Dwyer. Trustee Griffin,
Yes.
trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
trustee Land,
Yes.
trustee Dwyer,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes also. So that is approved 5-0. N3 is the presentation of the initial proposal from American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local 829, Council 57.
This is a successor proposal for 3 years. It includes a Me Too compensation for benefits and salary, but also a career growth request, the inclusion of Juneteenth as a holiday, and the incorporation of recent layoff and probationary legislative language for classified employees for a 3-year term. So this is just a proposal for information.
Okay. N4 is a public hearing for the San Mateo Union High School District's proposal for American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local 829, Council 57, and the American Federation of Teachers, Local 4681.
For both units, before you open the public hearing, I'll just describe it quickly. For both units, the district proposes to provide the Me Too one-time, the Me Too salary increase and the one-time payment, and revert back to 2021 for the district's contributions to health and welfare insurance. The one-time payment is in appreciation for the unprecedented and remarkable work that all of our employees have done throughout the pandemic. It is to recognize their invaluable efforts to combat the effects of COVID, welcome students back, and fully open up our campuses again. And
okay, I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to make a comment on this item?
No, President Hanley, there's none.
Okay, I will close the public hearing. N5 is to approve the district's proposal. Let's see, did I do this? Approve the district's proposal for American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees, Local 829, Council 57, and the American Federation of Teachers, Local 4681.
yes, approval of what was presented for the public hearing, the two proposals, AFT and AFSCME.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve this proposal?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Trustee Land, a second from Trustee Griffin. Trustee Griffin,
Yes.
Trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
Trustee Land,
Yes.
Trustee Dwyer,
Yes.
and I vote yes also. So that is approved 5-0. N6. We have a long item, a public hearing for AB 1200 for the following. San Mateo Union High School District Teachers Association 22-23 tentative agreement. California School Employees Association Chapter 519 22-23 tentative agreement. AFSCME 22-23 tentative agreement, and AFT 22-23 tentative agreement, and district confidential and non-representative administrators and managers salary schedule revision, and one-time payment of $2,500.
As you can see, we're trying, our hope is to settle with all of our unions before the fiscal year ends. We're very close to that, but before we can recommend the tentative agreements, we need the county to take the district through the AB 1200 process, which they have. It's attached, and this is the public hearing for the AB 1200.
Okay, let me open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to these items?
No, President Hanley, there's no requests.
Okay, let me close the public hearing. N7 is to approve the tentative agreements for the San Mateo Union High School District's Teachers Association, California School Employees Association Chapter 519, American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees Local 829, Council 57, and the American Federation of Teachers Local 4681.
I make a motion to approve the agreement.
Excuse me, Greg, Peter. We are still in discussions with CSEA, so we'd like to modify this item if possible to only include AFT, ASME, and the district's Teachers Association. We fully anticipate bringing the CSEA Chapter 519 at the next board meeting, we hope, but we weren't ready tonight.
Okay, so it would be to exclude the CSEA Chapter 519.
Yes, thank you.
I amend my agreement approval then.
Your motion,
That's it. It's getting 10 o'clock. I'm getting tired.
9:46.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the Teachers Association and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local 829, Council 57. And the American Federation of Teachers, Local 4681. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there, Trustee Land has made a motion. Has there been a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a second by Trustee Griffin. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
Trustee Land,
Yes.
Trustee Dwyer,
Yes.
and I vote yes also. So those agreements are approved 5-0. Oh my. N8, approve the following salary schedules.
This item has all of the salary schedules in the district with the 4.5% increase. Here again, we would like to modify this item as the CSEA salary schedule and the related longevity schedule. We'll bring that back hopefully at the next board meeting, but shouldn't be included in this approval if it's approved.
Okay. So approve the following salary schedule. San Mateo Union High School District Teachers Association, psychologist and Appendix B and C. American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employee, Local 829, Council 57. American Federation of Teachers, Local 4681. Confidentials, non-representative administrators and managers, and miscellaneous salary schedule.
Yes.
That is correct.
So looking at the list, you're taking off the classified longevity and the CSEA salary, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I move to approve all the others now.
Okay, we have a
Okay.
motion from Trustee Land, a second from Trustee Dwyer. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
Trustee Land,
Yes.
Trustee Dwyer,
Yes.
and I vote yes also. So those are approved 5-0. So N9 is approved the one-time payment of $2,500 for the following. The San Mateo Union High School District Teachers Association, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local 829, Council 57, American Federation of Teachers, Local 4681, districts, confidentials, and non-representative administrators and managers.
Yes, this one-time payment would be to all employees in all bargaining units and the non-represented confidentials and administrators and managers. Again, the one-time payment is in appreciation for the unprecedented and remarkable work our staff, teachers, and leaders have done throughout the pandemic. It's in recognition of their invaluable efforts performed to welcome back students, combat the effects of COVID-19, and fully reopen our campuses this year.
But it does not at this point include the CSEA 519.
Correct. Thank you.
I was going to ask the same question. All right.
Okay.
Or the board.
Yeah, we just have long meetings. Okay, I make a motion to approve this. I think this is awesome, and I'm glad we're doing this.
Second.
Okay, a motion by trustee Land, second by trustee Dwyer. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
trustee Land,
Yes.
trustee Dwyer,
Yes.
and I vote yes also. So that is approved 5-0. So, Division of Instructional Services, anti-racist school and community transformation work.
Dr. Kemke.
Good evening, and I have a co-pilot here. Dr. Showman is joining me, and there should be a presentation that we'll go through. I know the late hour, we'll try to be as succinct as we possibly can, but we did want to provide an overview of all the work we've done this year in service of our anti-racist school and community transformation. And I do want to take the opportunity just to thank Dr. Skelly for his support in this work. It's not easy work, and having a superintendent like him who's supportive and wise about how we go about doing this has been really a good part of why it's continues to be successful. Go to the next slide. I don't know if you remember, but this actually was approved by you in February of 2020. So we actually were in person at that point in time, and we talked about the importance of having a vision to guide our work. And it still stays true, and it's the reason that we're talking about all the different components that we'll provide an overview for tonight. Our equity and vision and mission is often shared throughout the district as a good reason for us to continue to serve our students, and a why of the why of all the things that you're going to see here. You can go to the next slide. We've shared this visual before, and again, there's just been a continuing amount of work in service of our anti-racist efforts. We adopted that vision and mission. We adopted the ethnic studies requirements. We've done a great deal of work training and working with our staff, working with our students. Dr. Showman's going to speak to our really early implementation of the ethnic studies class, which was years ahead of the state requirement, as you know. And we'll speak to many of these things, but I actually had to remove some things that I'd shared earlier in the year, just so that we could share all that we're going to talk about tonight. You can go to the next slide. And I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Showman, and just want to appreciate her for staying up late for this part. She didn't know when I asked her to share this with me that it would be at 10 o'clock, I don't think.
That's okay. Good evening, 10 o'clock. I'm still excited to be able to talk about ethnic studies, and I'll be brief on what we're doing now and what we've done in the past. Actually, Monday evening, I had the pleasure of having dinner with some former colleagues from Hillsdale, because one of them got recognized earlier. Johnny Sow is moving back to Southern California. It was that same group of teachers that I actually dreamed about bringing ethnic studies to Hillsdale at that time, and now we have it everywhere in our district. I'm so excited about that, and really congratulate Dr. Skelly and this board for being at the forefront of districts in California who are still scrambling to figure out how to implement ethnic studies now that there's a law. It was also that same group that I formed an affinity support group of BIPOC educators with. We talked about all assist work. So someone who has worked here for 18 years, I'm really excited and pleased that we're finally doing the work in anti-racism, in ethnic studies. So this slide kind of has two quotes on the left from students, and it's outlined the work from when we first started dreaming up and developing the course to the summer. Last week, we kicked off our PD for this coming year with Acosta Educational Partnership. We now are spreading this work to include more teachers besides teachers who are teaching ethnic studies. And I wanted to share a quote from one of our students who took both the introductory ethnic studies class at cappuccino, and now the advancing ethnic studies class. And here's their reflection. It says, ethnic studies has positively impacted many, many people's lives. And I think one of the main ways that it affects people is by connecting them with their identity and strengthening that connection. Not only does it allow individuals to access a part of themselves they may not have seeked out without ethnic studies, but it gives them the opportunity to connect with other human beings. If your perspective drifts a little, ethnic studies pulls you back to remind you that we are all diverse, complex humans on a floating rock who should love one another. And I just feel like that captures the essence of the work we're doing. We can go to the next slide. So we've been in partnership. We've been really lucky to work with the Acosta Educational Partnership, who are national leaders in doing this work. But I think what makes them so effective in working with our staff is that they're actual classroom and university practitioners. They have a focus on humanizing pedagogy. They have worked with both our administrators and our teachers, and they have visited all of our ethnic studies classes so they can actually see what's happening in action and get to know our students. And I think not a lot of kind of consultants or professional development providers actually do that. So the nice thing is we've actually had continuity. We have built a partnership, and the feed we led last week were really positive. So next year, so we've already kicked off those cohorts. We have a beginning and intermediate ethnic studies teacher cohort. We have an advancing ethnic studies teacher cohort. The beginning are teachers non-ethnic studies, brand new teachers to ethnic studies. Intermediate, they've been teaching maybe a year or two. Then our advancing ethnic studies teachers are the ones who have been teaching the course for a while. We started a non-ethnic studies teacher cohort. We have world language teachers, English teachers, math teachers, social science teachers as part of that group, English ELD teachers, teacher leaders. So that's very exciting. It's a really strong group. Then we'll do a new teachers to our district, and then we'll continue our administrator professional learning. In addition to all the teacher training, which is outlined here, our providers will add 4 days of site visits where they're visiting all the classrooms and program implementation consultation, and they're doing that as an in-kind service, which is really nice. And then the last slide I have, there were lots of quotes from teachers, but I wanted to share this one by Jackie Rogers, who teaches both the introductory and the advancing class. Our PD with AAP has been the most impactful and powerful PD that I've had in my 14 years of teaching. Their approach exemplifies and honors the heart of ethnic studies, action-based, culturally responsive, and healing through a critical and intellectual lens centered on an in-Lakesh pedagogy. I've always returned from PD with them reinvigorated and inspired by our facilitators. Shout out to Carlos, Sean, Curtis, Dr. V, but also by the district ethnic studies community they've helped build and maintain over the past 3 years in our district. I have so much gratitude and admiration for AEP and how they've helped me grow and evolve as an educator and human being. I know that as a result, my students have benefited in ways that go beyond academics. So I'm really excited that we're continuing both this work, which I think will help us get closer to our equity mission and vision as a district, along with the anti-racist work. Again, like I said, I've been here for a long time and been waiting for this for a long time. So it's exciting to see the board really be at the forefront of this work when other districts are barely starting to tackle it. Thank you.
Thank you. And one of the things, well, we weren't done with the presentation, but one of the things I wanted to mention about it, what we're sharing tonight is we're sharing, because this is the time for contracts, we're sharing kind of the overview of several large contracts that are coming to you. So Dr. Showman just shared from Acosta Educational Partnerships. I'm going to share a couple more in the work that we've done with them. So, and I'll try to move through this quickly. So you can go to the next slide. Next slide.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay. So you've heard a bit about YCLL, which is Youth Catalyst Liberatory Leadership. And this was training that was based on the grand jury report on ensuring that we are training students to be leaders in the equity work on their campuses. And our relationship with this organization really was strong this year. We had students trained at every single one of our schools. They had 4 days of training this school year, and most of them formed what they've called the Student Equity Council. These Student Equity Councils will continue into next year. Go to the next slide. And they'll help us start to integrate this work into our Tier 1 work. So we are hoping that our students will start to actually inform some of the work that we'll see across the campus. So Tier 1 meaning that we're really going to start creating environment across the school within the classrooms that is supportive to students, and that it really does disrupt some of the microaggressions, racial incidents that we've seen. So students are trained to support and also inform our Tier 1 teams that are thinking about these things. So YCLL and our consultants here, Restorative Equity Partnerships, will continue their work. They're working directly with students. They're all teachers themselves, school psychologists from a variety of backgrounds, and there are just wonderful things about the work with the students. And you heard much of that at the student listening session that you did just a couple months ago. You can go to the next slide. So I just wanted to share some of the results there. 96% of the students that participated, that as a result of their participation, they've really developed more meaningful relationships with their peers. And oftentimes it allowed students who were just coming back from the pandemic to have a place where they were making connections. And here's a quote for one of our Cappuccino students. You can move to the next slide. And now I just want to speak to the district-wide professional learning. So this is our work with Joe Truss and Shane Saphir. Dr. Showman spoke to this a little bit. It was a district-wide effort. We began the year, and at that point it was Trustee Griffin helped us open our first day in August and talked about how this is going to be our focus for the year, and it will continue to be our focus going forward. Truss and Saphir helped us with professional learning throughout the year. They created a community of practice with 90 of our administrators, teachers, and classified members to support the professional learning. They provided us executive team support. They did a retreat for us as Superintendent's Council. And then they continue to do strategic and cultural work with our team. You can go to the next slide. And you can just keep clicking the slide along. So our learning as a district happened over these 4 days. And you can see some of the components of what they covered. On May 16th, we accumulated in an anti-racist educator symposium with many amazing projects by our educators, thinking about ways to disrupt the racialized outcomes within their control. So we had AP teachers talking about how to increase and create cohorts of students that could feel success within their AP classes, to teachers talking about how to ensure our intake process allowed students to have their preferred names as ones that show up on the rosters. So a wide variety of issues were examined through the district, and we started to make some progress on. You can go to the next slide. Through the year, we had over 800 individuals. All of our teaching and many of our classified staff participated in 3.5 days of professional learning. I don't know of any other district that is doing the level of work that we've done this year. We still have some work to do with our classified, as you noted, I think earlier, that our classified will have 4 days next year. So we hope to ensure that they're a part of it and that the professional learning is meaningful. 78% of our individuals responded favorably on when we asked these questions: how valuable are the equity-focused professional learning opportunities facilitated by the district office? Still a very high response, favorable response rate. Sometimes when you do this kind of work, you start to see people feel uncomfortable because it does require you to do some interpersonal reflection. So we're really happy that people continue to be fairly positive about, about the work. You can go to the next slide. So our scope and sequence this year look like this. I'll go on to the next slide just to move this along. Our scope and sequence after several meetings with Joe Trust and Shane Saphir is going to look like this. We're going to bring the training closer to the school level with Shane and Joe, actually supporting our PD coordinators and PD planning teams directly. We did a lot of work this year around creating some common language to use, getting fluent, being comfortable saying things like anti-racist, white supremacy culture, white fragility. All of those things were part of what we became more comfortable as a district to talk about. And then this year, we're going to bring it a little closer. We're also going to include, and there's going to be a collaboration actually with Acosta Partnership and Trust and Saphir to support our administrators with sessions by both organizations and starting to make coherence between those efforts. And then we'll also see our teacher leaders start to do some classroom walkthroughs. I think one of the things that Dr. Schoeman mentioned is Acosta Partnership's done a lot of classroom visits. And so part of what we're going to do here as well is do visits with Trust and Saphir. And then we'll continue with the district-wide framing and training. The visibility around this work will continue. And then as always, we meet on a regular basis to kind of plan and strategize around the work. Go on to the next slide. So you can see some of the quotes. Some of them are from students, some of them are from our certificated staff. And it really is about, if you look at the one quote on the left-hand side is that we've set the tone that we can talk about this without us being too sensitive. It's the default normalcy that we've laid out. We should talk about it, and we're going to continue talking about it next year. And taking action is also part of the plan. So as we bring the professional learning closer to our PD teams at the schools, we begin to see some of these things enacted at the classroom level and the school level. And you also see one of the quotes from the students is about the teacher checking in. Part of our process this year was asking all of our staff members to engage in empathy interviews. So from administrators down to teachers, all took some time just to listen to students, as the way Shane Saphir described it, the students at the margin, with an idea of that this data, the street level data, would provide us some insights on how we can better serve our students. You can go to the next slide. So I'm going to move on to another contract that we're not approving tonight, but we want to describe each one of them, and they'll be on the consent agenda next week, or at the next board meeting, which is thankfully not next week. The next organization that we're working with is specific to our school counselors. This is for hatching results. And this is, specific. One of the things that has come up is ensuring that we're providing very specific strategic support to our different groups of either teachers or job alikes, as we call them. We have a lot of new counselors in the district. And so this organization is going to help our counselors develop ways to actively monitor their mindset, to consider how they're going around counseling students, specifically developing plans on how to narrow the achievement gap with a specific idea, ensuring that they're counseling students towards meeting the HG requirements, enrolling in dual enrollment classes. And there's also one thing that I want to mention connected to the earlier presentation on mental health is thinking about how we can bring some what we've called therapeutic conversations down to the classroom level. So through the support of our school counselors, as well as through all of this work, is how do we bring into our classrooms a place where students are able to feel like they can have their emotions and work through them in a healthy way. If we meet it at tier 1, we know that there's less chance that it will become a tier 2 or tier 3 or even greater problem. So our work with Hatching Results is a proposed 3-year partnerships, and we're using the A2G grant funds to support our work with our school counselors. Go to the next slide. The last one we just wanted to make mention too is specific to one of our schools. And because Cappuccino has been on a journey around restorative practices and they don't have the same robust parent funding, this is one of the ones that the district is going to support with. And since it is, it's not a huge contract, but we just wanted to, for transparency's sake, include it here. And actually, Monique, Assistant Principal Monique at Cappuccino, brilliant thought, well, you know what, I know Joe Truss also has some background in restorative practices, so she reached out to him. So this will be a smaller contract with him and another individual, Michael Essen, who has got some deep experience in anti-racist disciplines. So they'll be working with them specifically with our Cappuccino restorative teams, as well as providing some professional learning there. All right, and I think the last slide provides the overview of all of these contracts, their costs, where they're coming from, the participants, and how we're measuring the impact of all of this work. The other thing I want to make to mention is ethnic studies. There is specific state funding for that has just been allocated to our school. So we're using that for those. And all of the contracts that are coming to you for the second year, which is Trusted and Saphir and Restorative Equity Partnerships, they're less this year, and we anticipate creating the internal sustainability that will continue to kind of have less need to use the consultants, and that we'll internalize all of this work and be able to, create our own training system around many of the things that we've mentioned. So I think that is my last slide. I'll take any questions. This isn't this is just a discussion item. As I said, this was for transparency. These contracts are slated to go on to the agenda on the next board meeting.
Trustee Land,
Thank you. Julia and Samia, this is amazing. No matter how tired I am, this is definitely worth listening to and appreciating the highlights of this. It's amazing work that you're doing and we're doing, and I really appreciate it. Even down to the equity lens of putting resources into the places that need it, like talking about restorative and getting that to Cappuccino because PTA can't afford it. I think that's amazing. Just really looking at all the work that we're doing in the ethnic studies realm. I can just talk from personal experience. The high school district where my middle school is at, they came over to introduce the new work that they're doing with ethnic studies, and it came directly from Samia and some of the work that Acosta's doing. So I had to start laughing and appreciate, like, we are way ahead of the game, and I'm so proud of us, and I'm proud of all the work that we're doing. And so thank you for highlighting this. No matter how tired I am, it is so worth it to listen to. This is definitely the highlight reel of all the things going on. We need to just have DLAC and a few more things on the agenda, and we'll cover all the highlights of the wonderful things that we do in our district. So thank you.
Trustee Dwyer.
I took my hand down.
Oh, you took your hand down? Okay. Trustee Zuniga.
Yes, thank you so much for this presentation, and thank you so much for this amazing work. It's so important to have this type of work in our district, and how it resonates and reflects, especially with our students. It's important for them to see themselves in our staff, in curriculum, in every aspect of the district. But not only that, our staff too. For them to see themselves in all of this as well, to be able to be better educators and better administrators for our district. I'm really proud of what we do here. And yes, it's awesome that we're pioneering everything. I'm also really grateful for including disability justice in the anti-bias work, reflecting and acknowledging that we are all interconnected, that we're all part of one community, that we're all interdependent is awesome. So thank you. I really am super proud of all of this stuff. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. So this will come back on consent, mostly on the next meeting, as I understand it, right?
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna move us on, given the hour. Thank you again for bringing this forward. So Division of Business Services approved the 22-23 facilities use fee.
Can we just approve it?
It's an annual thing. This is an
Right.
annual process we go through.
Exactly. I
One
make a motion to approve this then.
one item of note, we haven't increased rates in, this will be 3 years, so.
Second,
Greg, you made the motion. Okay. Motion by Trustee Land and second by Trustee Dwyer. Trustee Griffin,
Yes.
Trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
Trustee Land,
Yes.
Trustee Dwyer,
yes.
and I vote yes also. I would just say this is really important, even though it's really late and I'm really tired. But this is really important that we keep up with this, because this was just really a mess for a long time, and we just can't get behind on it. And so it's critical that you get that capital cost work done and bring it back. How much longer do you think you have on the capital costs side?
We can bring it back in the next couple of years. So,
Yeah, because we just can't get behind on this. Because otherwise, all of a sudden, we get into some kind of recession or something, and we're way behind, and the costs are way behind, and it's just becomes a real mess, and we get into a controversy with communities, and it was just a nightmare.
I was
So
on the
I don't want to go through
board.
that again.
I was on the elementary board at the time and totally remember it.
Yeah. Yeah,
I remember it.
I will never forget it.
Okay, what's next?
Consider approval of the education protection account spending plan and adoption of resolution of the Board of Trustees of the San Mateo Union High School District regarding the education protection account.
this is a standard resolution that we do every year to document our spending for Prop 30 and Prop 55. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Trustee Land, second by Trustee Griffin. Trustee Griffin,
Yes.
Trustee Zuniga,
I see her nodding her head. It's yes.
I'm taking that as a yes, Trustee Zuniga, but you're muted. Trustee Land,
Yes.
Trustee Dwyer,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Sorry, I
So,
was a yes. I'm sorry about that.
It's 5-0. That is approved. We have public hearing on reserves in excess of minimum reserve requirements.
So this item is an annual item for transparency purposes. We list the reasons why we keep a reserve above and beyond the very low state minimum percentage of 3%. Just to bring up one of the things Trustee Griffin noted earlier, what if we need additional COVID supplies or testing in the fall? So the list is on the attachment. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I will open the public hearing. Is there anybody who would like to speak to this item?
No, President Hanley, no one has requested.
So I will close the public hearing. And we will move on to board operations. R1, adoption of amendment to district board bylaws 9220 governing board elections. I believe this
amendment had to be
concerns
made.
moving to trustee areas. Is
That's
that
correct.
Okay,
And so we need to approve it tonight. This can't wait.
okay. Is there a motion to approve?
I move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from trustee Dwyer, second from trustee Land, trustee Griffin,
Yes.
trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
trustee Land.
Yes, and I hope Linda's okay.
Graduation flu. Yeah, I vote yes.
And I vote yes also. So that amendment is approved 5-0. R2, approval of the resolution 21-22-33 of the San Mateo Union High School District, calling for an election to be held on November 8, 2022 for the election of 3 members of the governing board.
And this is what we talked about when we did the trustee.
Yes,
Right.
it's for the areas that we designated as up for election this year.
I make a motion to approve the resolution.
I second.
Okay. Motion by trustee Land, second by trustee Dwyer, trustee Griffin,
Yes.
trustee Zuniga,
Yes.
trustee Land,
Yes.
trustee Dwyer.
I didn't do the second.
I think it was Lihia who did the second.
Oh, was it Leah?
Yeah, you might want to just adjust that.
Oh, sorry. So
I
it
s-
was Land and Zuniga?
Yes.
Okay.
I
Sorry.
still vote yes.
Okay. Vote yes. I vote yes. Everybody votes yes.
Yeah.
5-0. Time to go home.
I am home.
Request.
Yes, trustee Land.
So one of the things I wish, I don't know if Superintendent McGee is on here, but what we talked about the gateway and the extension of the gateway, I think it would be important to have a conversation at some point on a board meeting just to be able to make some decisions on how do we want to work with them, how do we want a partnership with them, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. So that goes under requested board items. Okay. Okay. So are we ready to adjourn?
Yes, sir.
So,
Good night, John Boy.
so
All right, thank you.
the meeting is adjourned.
Wait, I think Kevin wanted to say something.